What is happening out there, rotoscouts baseball fans? Welcome to a Monday show, gang. Good to see everybody here. Afternoon start, 3:30, a couple minutes after. It's just getting the site updated, stashing the cat in the other room so he doesn't dive bomb the middle of the show. Still haven't really had that happen during a show, but he's got a bad habit of just leaping in from like this side of the desk. Door's over there, comes in, don't know he's there, just comes flying in right toward the coffee. Creates havoc more often than it doesn't. So always try and stash him. Every now and then I forget. We've got a really interesting slate to talk through. 9 games on both sites. Both sites did the right thing, decided to forgo the 640 whatever game. Start at 7-10. 9-gamer. A lot of pitching available. Really interesting pitching slate. We've got a lot of low totals and then a couple standout totals like this one that's showing on the screen right now with Boston at 6 implied runs against Austin Gomber. Red Sox with this interesting lineup that they throw at left-handed pitching, and now they get to face one of the weakest lefties in the sport. We get Willie Abreu in the lineup against the lefty because he's had a few consecutive days off with the lefties they've been facing. Should be an interesting spot for some Red Sox. I love the idea of a late lineup, hopefully sneakier than he ought to be. Willie Abreu just hanging in the 7 spot. They chase Gomber early. Who knows what happens? Some really interesting things to talk through. Monty's mentioning a couple of them in the chat. Barrios, Gallen, Kikuchi, all on the same slate. Going to need to increase my B plus from just a microdose to handle this much schizophrenic pitching. Best of luck, everyone. Happy Monday. Yeah, we've got some challenging options like those 3 for sure. Kikuchi comes in at a really low DraftKings price, more appropriately priced, I would say, on the FanDuel slate. Gallen is a guy we never trust. Barrios is a guy we've been ranting and raving about being just incredibly league average for forever now. And they're all right here on the board. Mixed in with Freddie Peralta against the Dodgers of all teams. Good pitcher, terrible spot, 89,900. You can see where Gallen lands versus the Padres at a reasonable price. Kikuchi, again, that's a $2,000 price difference between sites, and he belongs closer to that price. There's interesting things to work with down the board, too. No reason to believe that Tanner Bybee couldn't give you a good day against the Astros. Noah Cameron against the Pirates, reasonable at least for 6, and on and on. So, yeah, really interesting deep pitching slate. We'll talk through it all. You can see kind of the stark nature of the run totals as well. We've got that monster 6 lurking for the Red Sox in a home game against the Rockies. And then we've got just under 5 for the Reds, 4 and change, mid-4s for the Royals, upper 4s for the Blue Jays, and then everybody else right around 4 or under 4 runs. Next highest total is what? That 425? And that's on the Marlins. And there's really no daylight between that 425 and, this 415, obviously these 401. So everybody kind of falls into the cracks outside of these 4 heavier implied total teams. And quite honestly, Royals, a little bit underwhelming overall this year. Just that is a good total. Very gettable spot. Blue Jays, up and down performance is a first place competitor in the AL East for sure. Quality in the top part of the lineup, top heavy team. Talked about it all year. Not the best DFS bats. So really, really interesting board that way. Yeah, we open up with Austin Gomber against Richard Fitz. Whether in the Cincinnati game and the Kansas City game, it looks like Roth has both of those yellow. So just keep an eye on both of those. Seems like he's fairly optimistic about both, but they are both just pure yellow. So one definitely a spot to watch. In Boston, it's warm, muggy, and the winds, as he writes, out to left at 10 miles an hour toward the monster. So not a great pitching situation there for Austin Gomber or for Richard Fitz. Fitz on the bump for the Red Sox. Despite the weak Rockies in town, he's been somewhat limited as far as depth of start in most of his outings, handful of strikeouts here and there. He hasn't been terrible, but he's given up some power. Doesn't seem like the right day to be going to Mr. Fitz, but a 4.10 implied total for the Rockies with all those strikeouts is the argument. Jansen Junk is on the mound for the Marlins, facing the Reds in that potential rain game. We're seeing a pretty good mid-fours implied total on the Marlins side of that one, going up against Brady Singer with some of those sneaky, hard-hitting bats. Marlins might get a little bit interesting here. Singer, very gettable pitcher, but can break off a good start from time to time. And then we've seen Jansen Junk be pretty good in a couple of spots already this season. Had a 7-strikeout game over 6 against a roughly comparable Twins team. So could be in for a good day, but the Reds drawing a big 4.84 implied total against in their hitter-friendly home park. Dodgers at the Brewers. The Brewers just a 3.56 implied total going up against Yoshi Yamamoto, one of the better, more reliable top-end pitchers of the day. And then, as mentioned, Freddie Peralta, very high-end pitcher in his own right. Decent strikeout option, has been good with limiting runs over his last 10 starts or so, hasn't given up more than 3, but has been right around 3 in a lot of those, facing a very good but somewhat dinged up Dodgers lineup. I think Freddie maybe gets through being a little bit sneaky, 4.02 implied total for Los Angeles. Andrew Heaney against the Royals, just a low strikeout bunch of Royals that are pretty decent at putting bat on ball. Heaney's coming off of a good 6 2/3 against the Cards, in which he struck out 7, allowed just 3 hits, no earned runs, walked just 1, which was good because that was coming off of 2 straight where he was on the road against Milwaukee and Detroit. He lasted exactly 4 innings in both starts. He faced 21 Brewers and he faced 23 Tigers, and he gave up 7 runs in each of those performances. Struck out 3 against the Brewers, struck out 2 against the Tigers, and walked 3 in both. In the Brewers game, he gave up 3 home runs. In the Tigers game, he gave up all those runs on no home runs. Not a great pitcher, as evidenced by all of that, but somebody who's definitely probably going to get traded out of Pittsburgh, be on a higher end team for the stretch run. I won't say the New York Yankees, but it'll probably end up being the Yankees. And he's a little bit more capable than some of those games. The 2 starts before those 2 7-run games went 6, gave up 3 to the Cubs at Chicago and 1 to the Phillies. I mean, pretty decent starts there. So Heaney's always capable of giving you quality. It's just there's a lot of downside, and the Royals are a very good matchup to expose that downside. Going the other way, Noah Cameron on the mound, 4 2/3 clean the last time out, 5 strikeouts and a walk, 4 hits, no runs, but obviously not getting much depth, and nowhere near like the depth we got in his first 5 starts, where he went into the 7th inning in every one of his first 4 starts and then went 6. Hasn't cracked 6 innings since then, or pitched into the 6th twice, but hasn't completed the 6th, I should say. Handful of runs in a couple of those games, strikeouts come and go. Usable but not ideal against a very low-end Pirates lineup that we do like targeting. With them sub 4, maybe we get back on form a little bit with Cameron shares on a day where people are going to be spreading out for pitching. Jose Barrios, as mentioned, the definition of a league average pitcher, looked like he was going to start out for one of those Jose Barrios' bending the slate days against the Yanks the other day, and then they caught up to him. Ended up striking out 3, gave up a key home run, 6 earned on 9 hits over 4 1/3. 2 starts prior to that, 7 innings against the Red Sox at Fenway, 7 2/3 against the White Sox, gave up 1 run combined, 13 strikeouts against 4 walks over the 2 starts. Has the ability to go out and be very, very good. No issue with playing Jose Barrios against this White Sox lineup. Full stop. Their sub 4 implied total. Coming the other way, Sean Burke definitely looking like a target for some Blue Jays bats. I think we can fire away at that 4.78 implied total for the Blue Jays. The Guardians and the Astros. It's Colton Gordon on the bump for the Astros going up against Tanner Bybee. Bybee, problematic the last time out. That was against the Cubbies at Wrigley. I think we can kind of give him a little bit of a pass. 5 earned runs on 6 hits over 4, struck out 5 and walked 4. Start before that, 2 earned runs, 3 runs total on 3 hits over 6, struck out 7 and walked 0. Had a 10 strikeout monster the start before that against the Athletics, but it was out in Sacramento. He ended up giving up 5 earned runs, gave up a key home run in that one and 11 hits. So a little bit up, a little bit down, depending on what site you're playing. That start scored very differently. Handful of pretty decent starts, nothing crazy, but a few strikeouts, just a few runs allowed in each game over a stretch of like 5 or 6 starts in a row there. So it's been mostly effective. A couple bumpy spots early in the season, but definitely worth considering against a more gettable version of the Houston Astros. And then Gordon, mix and match quality pitcher, I would say. Hasn't been bad in any of his starts. Maxed out at 4 earned runs in his 9 starts so far. The Guardians, there is a little bit of talent, but there's also some strikeout there. So Gordon on the board. He'll land in the middle of it. Texas and the Angels, a 4.01 implied total for the Rangers going up against Yusei Kikuchi. And coming back the other way, the Angels drawing just a 3.57. They're facing Jacob deGrom, who's obviously coming in near the top of the board. deGrom is maybe not the deGrom of old. We talked about it the last time out. The strikeouts are down somewhat from where they used to be, which was into the mid-30s. But he's been very good. 2 earned runs last time out, over 6 against Baltimore, struck out 6, gave up a home run, walked 1, no problem. 7 innings of a 1-hit game against Baltimore at Baltimore. The start before that, struck out 7 and walked 2. Obviously, good spot for a right-handed pitcher facing that Baltimore lineup. Very good start against the Pirates prior to that one, the White Sox. You could argue that that's a stretch of 4 games against very gettable teams, but I would rather argue for Jacob deGrom shares. Against the high strikeout Angels lineup, you just have to fade the power a little bit, and deGrom more than capable of doing that. But going back the other way, Kikuchi is super playable, especially at that cheap DraftKings price. Diamondbacks and the Pods, a 3.92 implied total for the D-backs and a 4.15 for the Padres. It's Yu Darvish, Zach Gallen. Darvish has made 16 starts. I don't remember. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was going to say, wait a minute. I was going to say, I don't remember talking about Yu Darvish once. So I shouldn't just look at the game log. He hasn't made a start yet this year. I gave him 5 coming in. Where's that minor league game log? Let me get that. What have we done? Yeah, just 1 rehab outing. 4 innings. Should probably not even have 5 on him. Either way, first start of the year. Let me unwind that. So he did make 1 rehab. And that was all the way back in May. What the hell? We get caught up on Yu Darvish here. I meant to do this before the show. Apologies, gang. All right. Simulated games got him out to, I knew I saw 70s. 64 pitches in a sim game on Tuesday. So that, for me, that would go around 75 pitches. So I'm probably going to lower that actually. Where is he on this board? Yeah. 86, 83 probably doesn't make it into too many lineups at those prices with that projection against all of these anyway. But I think I might knock that down maybe to 4 and change instead of the full 5. I should probably be a little bit lower. Sorry about that. A little screwy there. Phillies and the Giants to round. Gallen, we can at least consider the Padres' low strikeout, coming in at a low total, but there's enough there. He's just, at best, difficult to nail down, let's say. Last time out against the Giants, struck out 10, gave up a home run, 1 earned run, 2 runs allowed on 5 hits over 7 innings. Pretty solid DFS day. The 2 starts prior to that, and honestly, it was like 4 in a row. He gave up at least 4 earned runs, and then 2 starts prior to the most recent one, 5 earned runs and 7 earned runs against the White Sox and at Coors Field. But capable of snapping off a really, really strong start, even against the Padres team. And then pitcher I love at the end of the night, Christopher Sanchez, making his debut from my dynasty team today, going up against the Giants. 7.5 run total in a pitcher-friendly park at the end of the night. The Giants pulling just a 3.61 implied total. On the other side, the Phils at a 3.98 implied total against Landon Roop, who's been very, very good, mostly at limiting power. Last time out, he did give up a home run, but it's difficult to hit homers against the kid. You're taking away one of the Phillies' bigger attributes at the plate if you're doing that. What Roop hasn't really given us is a ton of strikeouts, a ton of DFS quality, or a very strong depth of start in most of his outings. So I don't know how much he's going to be on the board, but he is checking the Phillies a little bit, which is kind of interesting for this slate. But love Chris Sanchez, and he is at the top of your pitching board. Getting a little ding for deGrom, a little ding for Yamamoto against slightly higher end opponents. So really interesting top 3. Any which way you want to go with those 3 guys, but the fact that you get Chris Sanchez a little bit cheaper than the other 2, and he projects out a little bit better than the other 2, I love that. Tons of depth for Sanchez. Strikeout ability rivals deGrom and Yamamoto, at least in this form of deGrom. But either way, with DeGrom, Yamamoto, again, pick your poison. There are a ton of strikeouts on deck in that Angels lineup for DeGrom. So at 11-2, 10-3, no issues with going there. Just more challenging to afford that, obviously. Yeah, I saw that, Monty. Brian Reynolds. No trade list. Yankees, Blue Jays, Mets, Dodgers, Giants, and Padres was his no trade. So does he just not want to be in the playoffs? Does he just hate big cities? Like, it's so weird. BBL Slayer, when you're 1% and under, Tiger stack is scoreless through 8 2/3 innings, and then you get 3 home runs in an extra inning. Kenny Woodhouse, Stephen B. I didn't say hi to everybody. Duckings here, Stephen B. Cujo, Anthony Taylor, King of all trades, BBL. Good to see all you guys. Hit the like button as we get into the pitching board a little bit here. So, Barrios, Kikuchi, I'll throw Freddie into that mix against the Dodgers, and Gallen and Bybee, honestly, against Houston. That is its own unique little tier where any one of these guys could easily go out there, pitch a gem, not surprise anybody at all, and win the slate. There's slate winning upside on every single one of those pitchers at price. There's nothing wrong with any of the prices on either site. There are differences, obviously, with Kikuchi, again, being 2,000 different across sites. That's absurd. He is pitching way better than that $7,200 price on DraftKings. There are plenty of things that you can nitpick about putting too many guys on base via the walks, some of the contact history, the fact that the xFIP is significantly higher than the ERA, and he's just kind of getting by and getting lucky. But that's Yusei Kikuchi. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. So that's a really generous price on DK. So is the 78 there and the 7,000 there. So there's a lot to work with. I think it's probably worth making a few. Honestly, you could even do that if you want to include Noah Cameron and Brady Singer in high quality matchups at similar prices and tier those guys out. Maybe eliminate the top 3 and then eliminate the bottom. And just run some builds, run some crunches, build some lineups with this group of pitchers where you're going kind of double barrel cheap on DraftKings for the most part, or getting a really low on Freddie Peralta, mid-board type Jose Barrios, but mostly going double barrel cheap and just seeing what that buys you and throw those into the mix and then put everybody back and build the vast majority of your lineups. But I think it would pay to just have a little set of lineups that was at least to sort through, kind of making sure to combine some of those options because they're naturally going to click together with some of these guys in a lot of crunches, a lot of lineup builds. If you're looking down the board, it wouldn't be completely nuts to throw a very cheap Landon Roop into that conversation. You could arguably do the same thing with an incredibly cheap Richard Fitz. Junk, it just seems like Vegas is telling us to stay away in that ballpark. I don't love any of these options down board, but again, wouldn't completely shock if Andrew Heaney went out and had a decent day for 65. It's just a really low strikeout, less than likely opponent for him. John Hansa says, if you designate the high money teams on your no trade, you increase your leverage to waive the clause to teams you are likely to be traded to. That's fair. Yeah, if you're looking at it that way, that makes sense. Good call. Ricky Rose, what's up? Going on, man? Keith Vape says, the only channel I'll ever need for DFS. So glad to have found your page. I'm glad you found us too, man. Welcome. We've been here a lot recently. Jake, let's just leave that alone. That is, unless you're talking about Mike, Seth, or Tyler, the 3 guys with that last name who have been in organized baseball. It's surprising. It's only 3. The one that immediately popped into my head was that I was going to make a joke about initially was David Eckstein, but that's obviously the wrong name. Slightly different. It sounds like a tax dodge. So let's dive in. Again, there's a lot to work with through the middle here. A lot of interesting spots. Only a few spots that really, really poke their heads above the sand for bats, and then some others that we're going to have to kind of dig into. So Austin Gomber checks into the slate at 4,500, 6,200 to face the Red Sox in Fenway Park on a day where they're drawing a 6+ total and the wind is blowing out toward the monster. Not a good day to be facing a whole bunch of right-handed hitters who specialize at tattooing lefty pitching. This could get ugly in a hurry. This seems like a really straightforward, obvious spot where the Red Sox should be incredibly, incredibly popular. There's nothing wrong with going there. You've got some really, really cheap options. $2,500 Nate Eaton leading off at third base, for example. $2,000 dead min price on FanDuel. Over 21 plate appearances, 278, 333, 333. Those have all come in the last week and change when they've been facing all these lefties. He's been effective. He's getting on base, setting the table ahead of their key bats here. So nothing wrong with just cheapening things up and playing Eaton. Third base on DK versus outfield for the min on FanDuel. A little bit more value to the FanDuel slate, I would say, but very valuable just over here cost-wise. I just don't love the positioning. Romy Gonzalez hits everything hard. 13.5% barrels, 58.3% hard hits, slashing 323, 356, 532 with a 210 ISO, 138 WRC plus, 3 homers, 4 steals in just 135 chances. Gets most of his work in against lefties. Gets to face a lefty who comes in with a 6.9% strikeout rate against a 4.6% walk rate. That's a very good walk rate, but when it's nearly a 1-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio, it's not a good walk rate. 5.49 ERA, 6.16 xFIP. 13% barrels allowed, 4.60% home runs. Has Austin Gomber been better than this in the show in the past? Sure, of course he has. Last year, 4.75 ERA, a 4.50 xFIP, 16.7% strikeouts against 5.5% walks, 4.31% home runs on a ton of premium contact. That's who he really is. So he's very low strikeout, just not quite that low. He is appreciably low walk, but he doesn't do anything with that attribute. He might be able to keep an extra guy off base, but he's going to allow so much premium contact, so much power, so much just raw contact in general that you always just want to target this pitcher with opposing bats, and there's no reason in the universe to play him at 45. Continuing down the Red Sox lineup, we got Roman Anthony at 3,900, 2,900. I do not care at all about any lefty in this equation. Fire away with Roman Anthony shares. Hope he goes under-owned from other people. Overall, 1 home run, 1 stolen base, and underwhelming slash line outside of the good on-base percentage in his first 97 plate appearances. But look at the premium contact that he's been putting up. 11.9% barrels, 52.5% hard hits. As far as actually squaring the ball up and the fact that he's drawing walks, the kid hit the ground running. It's just not really showing yet. Just go there. Rob Resnider, 37-28, 5 home runs, 273, 53, 490, a 220 ISO with most of his work also coming against lefties. Again, throwing him into the mix against a completely dead lefty on the mound. Love the spot. Trevor Story, 10.1% barrels, 47.3% hard hits. Bent to slate just the other day. Up to 14 home runs and 14 steals, slashing 252, 292, 409. Not really drawing the walks. Not getting on base enough, but everything else about Trevor Story is entirely intact, and he continues to go under-owned, and he continues to be really cheap at $4,000 on DraftKings. By comparison, he's $35 on FanDuel. That's a way higher relative price. Carlos Narvaez, we were talking a little bit about Connor Wong and what happened to him, and Carlos Narvaez just kind of Wally pipped him. Just kind of pushed him out of the way right now. So far, 272, 350, 434, 7 home runs, a 117 WRC plus, 3,600 where you have to play catchers. Just don't overthink it. Just take the cheap catcher option, even as just a one-off. He's going to be popular, but it matters less, especially when you just need to book that position for such a cheap price. You just take the square, get different elsewhere. Willie Abreu, I mentioned before in the rundown, he typically sits against lefties, but they faced a bunch of them in the last few days. So they're getting him into the lineup, and I love the upside, especially if he goes under-owned for this spot, 45-33. They chase Austin Gomber in the second inning. We're going to get plenty of opportunity for Willier to succeed. So right now, he has faced 40. He's made 41 plate appearances against lefties this year. He's slashing 222, 317, 361 with a 139 ISO and an 89 WRC plus. Entirely uncharacteristic when you look at his overall numbers as far as the power, the premium contact. Gets worse if you extend out to the full sample against lefties. In 118 career plate appearances, so a little bit more than double what he's done this season. 196, 271, 299 with a 103 ISO and a 58 WRC plus. So through that lens, he's been improving against left-handed pitching this year. They're working him into a few spots around the edges, especially now that he's a more key bat for this team and they've got a little bit more flexibility. At 45, at 33, I will buy the upside on a guy who's got 17 home runs and a 241 ISO so far this year. Abraham Toro and Ceddanne Rafael have been very good so far this season. Rafael at 264, 307, 456, 11 homers, 11 steals, still making very, very good contact, just kind of quietly at the bottom of the lineup. He's a monster for counting stats. He scored 50 runs already from the 9 spot most days. That's impressive. 307 on base. Against that on base, it's also impressive. Just manages to make things happen. He's up to a 107 WRC plus, too. That was the gotcha last year. He had a lot of these counting stat type numbers, but just a 79 WRC plus. That was despite scoring 70 runs, driving in 75, stealing 19, hitting 15 home runs. This year, it's kind of gone up, and it's gone up a lot lately, too, because that was underwhelming a couple of weeks ago. And then Toro at 294, 343, 450, just continuing on with one of the better stretches we've ever seen him, if not the best. Very playable 1 through 9 for this confirmed Red Sox lineup. Just take the shares. Get creative about how you put them together. Maybe you've got a lot of pricing to work with. You've got a few multi-position options. Got very cheap options as well. Even if you just went off the top of the deck, I'll begrudgingly leave Roman Anthony out. I think this is where you get to a low owned Roman Anthony, is because this is the exact decision people will make to do that. Take all the righties, take the cheap catcher, take the price. We're at 36.40 for that Eaton, Romy, Refsnyder, Story, Narvaez stack. Not the most overwhelming names in the world, but look at all the success they have in this situation. But that makes me really love the idea of clicking Roman Anthony and Willie Abreu into a lot of those stacks, because I think that's the way everybody will build it. On the Rockies side, going up against Fitz, 62.78 for Fitz. He checks in with a 4.50 ERA, a 4.43 xFIP, a tidy little 101 stuff plus rating, but hasn't exactly helped him having that above average stuff or inducing these swinging strikes, because he's not putting hitters away. He's given it way too much premium contact in the tiny sample it's amounted to a few home runs against. That can burn him against some of these Rockies power bats. There are plenty of strikeouts for him to work that swinging strike stuff against. He doesn't throw enough called strikes, though, and again, he hasn't really been putting hitters away. So I don't really see it in the cards for him to have that much success here. He's very cheap if you want to throw a few darts at just the Rockies on the road against a righty, which has been a thing for as long as there's been fantasy baseball, basically. Maybe at those prices. We're talking about in the last 2 outings since his return on the 25th, he went 4 innings, 2 earned runs, struck out 6, walked 1, but gave up 2 home runs. That was against the Angels. Lasted just 3 innings the last time out against the Reds. Gave up just 1 run, struck out 1, walked 1, and came out of the game. Did he come out of the game, or did that game get... Was that the postponed game? That was the shortened game. Okay. I was going to say, there's no reason he came out of that game. So that was the one where it got rained on. So figure 5 innings. If you're looking to book 5 against the Rockies, you could do worse than 62 as an SP2 on DraftKings, but you can see how it projected out at the bottom of the board. 78 on the FanDuel slate. I don't think we're getting 6, even if things are going to plan. He's completed 6 in his first 2 starts of the season. That was back on March 30th and April 7th. 3 runs allowed in both of those. 4 strikeouts in each game. In his 3 starts in June in AAA, 3 innings, 4 innings, 5 innings. So he hasn't completed 6 down there either. Skeptical about the FanDuel quality. DraftKings, again, it's a cheap bargain bin type dart. Tyler Freeman off the top of the Rockies at 45-28. Holding down a very strong slash line over 161 plate appearances. 42.9% hard hits is not bad, especially when it comes to that kind of contact frequency and the ability to draw a walk. 12 stolen bases on top of that, 422 on base, a 136 WRC plus. Quietly been the best player the Rockies have over this stretch of opportunities. Overall for the season, Hunter Goodman's been the best hitter they have. 16 home runs, 281, 326, 516 with a 119 WRC plus. He costs a pretty penny at 5,100, 3,200, but throwing him at Richard Fitz, you could do worse. If you're going to Rockies, is a very high priority bat. Mickey Moniak in the 3 spot, 3,800, 2,900. Mickey has 13 home runs this year, a 275 ISO, 11.7% barrels, 46.9% hard hits from the former first overall pick that we've seen succeed. I've done this a couple times already this season. We've seen Mickey Moniak succeed at the major league level. Last year, bad slash line, but 14 home runs, 8 steals in 418 chances. The year before, over 323 chances, essentially a half a season. Moniak slashed 280, 307, 495, had a 215 ISO, created runs 14% better than average, and hit 14 home runs while stealing 6 bases. It's a very good half season. Just kind of been kicked around a little bit. I would argue unfairly. Whenever he gets a chance, he hits the ball. So if you're going to Rockies, again, a high priority bat in this lineup. Thairo Estrada, 35-29, cheap, decent slash line, not really great in the WRC plus department, not really hitting the ball hard at all, but low strikeout, putting the ball in play, that'll go a little bit against Richard Fitz. Michael Talia, way too many strikeouts, not enough walks this year, does have raw power, 10 home runs on the season, took him a minute to get there. He's been decent since his call-up. Had a little stretch where he wasn't really getting any power over like 10, 11 games and then hit his 10th just last night. Cut him from the dynasty team. He wasn't a bit keeper eligible, though, and I needed the roster spot. Ryan McMahon, Brenton Doyle, Yanquiel Fernandez, and Ryan Ritter going down the lineup. Some interesting bats. McMahon doing McMahon things as usual, 12 home runs, looking to get traded out of Colorado, 12.4% barrels, 49.5% hard hits, a lot of strikeouts, but can draw some walks. Interesting enough bat if you're going to this team already, not really a reason to go to this team. Brenton Doyle at just 32.27 has a 12.3% barrel, 47.2% hard hits, just a 206, 256, 336 slash line with a 129 ISO to show for it. But that's interesting bat on ball for a cheap price against a middle of the road pitcher at best. And then Yanquiel Fernandez at 23 and at the dead min on FanDuel. He's an interesting bat. He's a high-end prospect for them that they called up. He hasn't barreled the ball yet. In 13 plate appearances, he's at 308, 308, 385. It's essentially meaningless, but he's got a decent bat. Sneaky lefty, very, very cheap late in the Rockies lineup. That could work. Ryan Ritter hasn't done much with 88 plate appearances. Pretty bad 63 WRC plus, 0 barrels so far. Needs to get his act together. He was supposed to hit better than this. Red Sox bats with a bullet. Rockies bats after that. And then Richard Fitz on DraftKings at 62. Maybe a couple shares. Keith, in what respect? Oh, you're talking about for the Astros? First game out of Coors? Nah, not really. Nothing that I've ever seen like quantified in any serious way. As far as like you were in Coors last week and now you're playing at home. Their home park, especially with the Astros, benefits them so much. Are they at home? I started talking about it without, yeah, they are. Started talking about it without thinking about what ballpark they were playing in. But yeah, especially for them in that home park, it does benefit them through a variety of ways over the years. Marlins at a 4.25 implied total going up against Brady Singer. Let's see if we got this lineup in. Doesn't look like yet. Let me actually reload the page. I don't think they're dropping them in. Nope, still not there. A couple other ones came in along the way. So Brady Singer, very much on that list of Zach Gallen, Yusei Kikuchi. Brady Singer's there. 4.36 ERA, a 4.51 xFIP. The xFIP being a little bit higher than an already too high ERA. 21% strikeouts against a 10% walk so far this year. A 2.62% home run rate is very good in spite of a load of premium contact allowed. Means he's getting lucky to have only allowed that many home runs. We're way over the threshold on all 3 of the major indicators there, and it's an average 15.8 degree average launch, so an extreme fly ball trajectory. He was much better the last 2 years at keeping the launch angle down. You can see it's essentially doubled year over year, and that hasn't impacted the home runs. It definitely will. Strikeouts have come down somewhat. Walks have gone up somewhat. He hasn't been as good overall this year as he was in either of these 2 seasons. Even with the 5.52 ERA, 4.28 xFIP that season was at least relatively stable. He's lost a little bit in these 17 starts this year. Still does have the ability to go out there, though, and put up a very good day against this Marlins squad. Last time out, 3 innings. That was in Fenway. That was, I think, on the other side of that shortened game. Struck out 4, walked 2, gave up 2 earned runs in that short stint. 5 innings prior to that, allowed 4 runs to the Yanks, but struck out 9, which is, it's the Yankees, so it's not that much of an accomplishment. Did allow a home run with the 4 runs. 6 innings in 2 consecutive starts on the road at the Cardinals and at the Tigers. 4 hits in both games, 1 earned run in both games. Struck out 7 Cardinals, struck out 4 Tigers. Walked 1 card, walked 3 against the Tigers. Prior to the Yankees game, he was on a stretch of 7 straight starts in which he completed the 6th twice, got through the 7th, or completed the 6th 3 times, got through the 7th in one of those. 3 quality starts, and all of the other ones went 5, but allowed 3 or fewer earned runs and only allowed 3 twice. That was a very strong stretch of starts. Like I said, it was 7 pretty good starts leading into what was just a 4-run game against the Yanks. Really has only melted down once. 2 1/3, 7 earned runs allowed to Houston back on May 10th. Otherwise, he hasn't allowed more than 4 earned runs in a single game all season. Strikeouts have been more of the maybe issue at 21%, but that's not terrible. Walks being a little bit high. Too many guys on base at 1.34. In no way is Brady Singer reliable here, but it is the Marlins on the other side. Just a 20.5% strikeout rate, but some more gettable targets down there, up here in the middle. It's bolstered by some hit tool focused players like Xavier Edwards at just 15.3% strikeouts. Otto Lopez at 13.9. Otto's got 9 home runs, but just a 132 ISO. Doesn't exactly make killer contact. Agustin Ramirez hits the ball very hard, and he's low strikeout. Eric Wagaman kind of in the middle, probably going back up toward that mid-20s strikeout rate. So his playability on Singer at 75, I would say also at 82 on FanDuel. This is one of the bottom parts of that mid-tier that I highlighted. Jensen Junk at 6,700 comes in with a 3.62 ERA, a 3.02 xFIP, 37 1/3, 3 starts, handful of relief appearances. The 3 starts have come in his last 3 appearances. Last time out, 6 innings against the Twins, 7 strikeouts, no walk, 2 earned on 6 hits. 5 earned runs in 3 2/3 against the Giants at San Francisco. He disappointed us that day. That was coming off of his first start, which was against the Braves. He went 5, struck out 5, walked 0, allowed 1 earned run on 5 hits. Was very good at a really low price that day, if I'm remembering correctly, and then burnt us in that Giants game. I think you go back to the well here. At 6,000 on the DraftKings slate against the Reds team that has a 24.7% strikeout rate, I have definite interest in going to Reds bats too. This ballpark very much helps offense. 4.84 implied totals, the second highest on the board, and the home run pick of the day comes from this team. So I'm going to the Reds, but I think you can mix in some Jensen Junk on DK at 6,000. On FanDuel at 75, it wouldn't shock me to see 6 decent innings. Again, a pretty good comp would be that Twins game. 6 innings, faced 23 hitters, 7 strikeouts, 2 earned runs. I could see that exact start, 6 hits. I can see that exact start happening again here. Hasn't really walked anybody in the show yet. 1.3% walk. That's a stellar strikeout to walk ratio. Has allowed some premium contact, but it hasn't turned into home run upside or home run downside. But 50.9% hard hits, 92.5 miles an hour of exit velo so far. So the power against is definitely there. It's definitely coming at some point. And again, home run pick of the day comes from the Reds. Getting into some bats, Xavier Edwards at the top of the Marlins, as mentioned. Very low strikeout, hit tool focus, 284, 355, 322. Kind of got his act together. 15 stolen bases, just a 298 xWOBA, but that's a stat that's never really going to reflect the quality of guys that hit balls in the way that he does. As long as he's getting on base, providing correlated scoring, at these prices, he's very playable at second base if you're going to the Marlins. But he's not really a reason to go to the Marlins. Jesus Sanchez is arguably a good reason to consider some Marlins bats against Brady Singer, though. Solid left-handed hitter, 6.17 in the home run model, striking out just 22.1 this year, coming down from 26% the last 2 seasons. And we're up to 271 plate appearances now. It's not like this is just, him getting started. That's a marked improvement. He's drawn more walks than he was last year, slightly fewer than the year before, but against that lower strikeout rate, that's tremendous. Hitting the ball as hard as he has in the past couple of seasons, he's hit 7 home runs in 271 chances, has just a 160 ISO to show for that premium contact. Needs to improve in the frequency with which he delivers on the quality of contact that he makes, the quality with which he hits the ball, but has a lot of upside on any given slate. 360 ex-Wobo, 103 WRC plus this season. He costs $3,800, $3,100 to throw at Brady Singer in this ballpark. Otto Lopez at 37, 3,000. 9 home runs, 9 steals. Solid year. The 364 ex-Wobo under the covers for him. Not bad. 321 on base. Just a 95 WRC plus. A little bit of room for upside there. He's inexpensive. I don't love plugging him in at shortstop, but it's doable if you're going to the Marlins. He's one of the more critical bats. Agustin Ramirez, as mentioned, mashes baseballs, 11.9% barrels, 47.8% hard hits, sub 20% strikeout rate for the rookie over 271 initial plate appearances in the show. That's tremendous. 13 home runs, 241, 288, 462. Leaves something to be desired on the front end of the slash line, but if you're going to just provide that kind of power, that kind of premium contact, a 221 ISO, stands on its own. 103 WRC plus. Take advantage. Very affordable catcher bat. Kyle Stowers, their big bat this season. 19.4% barrels and 53.1% hard hits, 16 home runs and 322 chances to show for the premium contact, a 234 ISO, 138 WRC plus. You're not building many Marlin stacks against Brady Singer without Kyle Stowers in. Eric Wagaman at 32.25, mix and match quality, pretty underwhelming. Slash line a 79 WRC plus, a 46% hard hit on sub 20% strikeouts, 5.5% walks is compelling. Means there's just a decent amount of premium contact available, and he's very, very cheap. I'd rather probably just have him for 25 as just another outfielder on FanDuel than at either price at either corner, but he's playable anywhere. Liam Hicks at 34.25, solid slash line, showing off a very good hit tool, 367 on base from an affordable catcher with first base eligibility on DraftKings. Not a bad option. 337 ex-Wobo, creating runs 23% better than average over 179 chances. Connor Norby's interesting down lineup. Pretty weak season so far. 5 home runs, 7 steals, though, under the covers in 253 chances. A 9% barrel with a little bit of pedigree for hitting the ball hard. And then Dane Myers at 3,200, 2,700. Another player. Pretty quietly strong slash line, 288, 342, just a 397 slug. Obviously leaves something to be desired. Just a 109 ISO, but it comes on 7.2% barrels and 41.3% hard hits. So there is a little bit more to give there as far as some extra base results, maybe some home runs along the way. 107 WRC plus, 338 ex-Wobo from a guy who's getting it done via the hit tool. Very, very cheap. A lot of ways to build with Marlins. They're probably better as a short stack, a secondary stack, whatever you want to call it. 2-3 guys, or your second option coming in. 3-man in a 4-3-1 on FanDuel, 2-man in a 5-2-1 on DraftKings, so on and so forth. But there's quality here, and they're going up against a gettable starter. Wouldn't surprise me if Brady Singer beats them. Wouldn't surprise me if they beat Brady Singer. Sorry to both sides that one on you. Like that's anything new. You guys know that most of baseball DFS analysis is both sided. Jake saying regarding the coming out of course thing, I think it's a thing, but not so much when it comes to actually good teams. Which then begs the question, are the Astros an actually good team? They've got actually good players, a lot of whom have been underperforming. Let's just go. I'm just Googling it as best I can to see if there's if anybody's tried to quantify it. Again, I would not really put too much stock into it. This one's from 2019. (2022) Bear with me. Oh, this is meaningless. This is off of 20. We got halfway through that article and it said, we'd like a larger sample than 22 games. Yes, we would. 2018. Yeah, I don't want to burn too much more showtime with a bunch of people here hanging out, but I wouldn't put too much stock into it. Nobody's really put any kind of effort into quantifying it over the years. Could it be a thing? Sure. Is it any way we could point to it and say, like, because of this, these guys are going to perform at this level instead of that one? Not really. Jordan likely out till the end of September now. Pena out indefinitely. Yeah, Jordan with that hand injury is a little bit weird when they went back for more imaging and don't really seem to have a good handle on what's going on. That sucks. One of the best bats, man. Sucks losing him for a full season, basically. On the Red side, love the upside. 4.84 implied total. They're going to be obvious. They're going to be popular just like the Red Sox. Reds and Red Sox together are probably going to be a popular combination of teams. Easily worth going to. And honestly, those two teams probably combine pretty well together, given where some of the bats that you want to get to are positioned. So I really like the upside for getting to some Reds. I would probably look to vary those combinations, pretty aggressively, because again, that's going to be a natural fit for everybody, especially with all the affordable pitching. But there are ways, if you're going to more unique pitching, to get to those unique combinations to create your own leverage anyway. So don't get too hung up if you see a bunch of good stacks coming together with highly owned teams. You also get a lot of differentiation if you're especially if you're using my projections and you're getting down to some of the bottom end hitter or the bottom of the lineup hitters in place of some of the other guys. It does work things out and you get to leverage-based positions in stacks that people are going to already. Anyway, all that is to say the Reds look good. 42.29. TJ Friedl, a little bit more affordable now. 280, 368, 409, giving you a 116 WRC plus on the season, scoring a bunch of runs. Things that are not necessarily predictive as far as the runs scored, but 42 text messages since we started. We have the minor league draft is going on in the Dynasty League. Slow draft by email/text message. Didn't realize it was that many. That's what caught my eye there as I was mid-thought. So Friedl giving you a lot of quality just via correlated scoring. So we're getting him on base ahead of Matty McClain, who's mired at 206, 295, 331, kind of problematic season. Does have 9 home runs, 12 stolen bases, moderate slash line, or moderate premium contact numbers. Not really rivaling exactly what we wanted from him where he was 2 years ago. Missed all of last year. 2 years ago, 16 homers, 14 steals at 290, 357, 507 slash with a 216 ISO over 403 chances was tremendous. If we can borrow that guy for a day, monster spot for success. Very affordable at second base on both sites. Home run pick of the day, Mr. Eli de la Cruz. Come on down. 14% barrels, 45.6% hard hits on the year, 18 dingers, 22 stolen bases. Monster slash line at 277, 349, 487, a 210 ISO, a 125 WRC plus. If there's a problem in Cincinnati, it is not Eli de la Cruz. Looks like a monster 59-38. I expect he'll be popular, but I went there anyway because it's kind of a light hitting day, let's be honest. Austin Hayes, 48-31. Pretty solid slash line out of him, over 164 chances this year, a 129 WRC plus, 8 homers from the right side. At worst, a mix and match quality outfielder. I'll say he's a little expensive at 48 for who he is on DraftKings, but he's put good wood on the ball this year. Very playable within red stacks. Maybe not a reason to go to them at that price. 31 on FanDuel is entirely fine. Gavin Lux at 32.26. That's where I get into it a little bit. Like, tell me what the real quality difference is between those two and convince me that Austin Hayes wouldn't normalize to about where Gavin Lux is, maybe with a little bit more power showing in another 120 some odd plate appearances there. I think he would. So that's a little bit weird with the price discrepancy. You've got Lux at third and in the outfield on DraftKings for 32. 2,600 second base eligibility is where I like him on FanDuel, but I'll play him in any one of those spots for those prices. It's cheap enough. He's creating runs at a 10% better than average clip. Not really hitting the ball hard, but finding success via on base, via BABIP. Spencer Steer is a mix and match quality option. He is up to 10 home runs, 253, 310, 410. Some improvement lately. 96 WRC plus. Still not hitting the ball particularly hard. Needs to get back at least to this level, which even in itself wasn't all that good, but should find some more quality along the way. Tyler Stevenson, a bat we talk about a ton because he's only 3,700 on DraftKings, where you have to play his position. 12.3% barrels, 53.8% hard hits, 6 home runs this year and 201 chances, just a 159 ISO. A little underwhelming for the premium contact that he's making. Last year, he hit 19 home runs in 515 chances, had a 186 ISO. The year before, 13 in 517. The guy can hit home runs for sure, and he's making the best contact he's ever made. So just keep going there. He's just too cheap. He's very easy to play on DK, and you can play him on FanDuel because there's a lack of a clear-cut first baseman on this team. Easy option on both sites to throw at Jansen Junk. Will Benson, 38-26, 7 home runs, pretty bad slash line otherwise, but a 205 ISO. All the power in the world from the left side of the plate. When you catch Will Benson on the right day, you get fireworks. Otherwise, you get zeros. And then Noelvi Marte, 274, 333, 479. Creating runs 19% better than average. 3 homers, 4 steals, over 81 chances now. Not bad. Kind of pulling himself together. Low strikeout, medium walk so far. It's a interesting Reds lineup, I'll say. I'll stop short of saying it's a good Reds lineup, but they're very affordable. I mean, just top lining the 5 up there, you're just 44.40. That's not bad for the bats that you get there. And there's obviously ways to make that cheaper. Probably a little bit even less expensive on FanDuel. That 4-man is a 31 and a quarter. And honestly, if I sacrificed that and took my Gavin Luck share at second base or in the outfield, because I would want McClain at second base, 3,000 a piece. That's doable. 4 corners game for sure. Less comfortable with the pitching than the hitting. Reds bats. Brady Singer. Marlins bats. Jansen Junk. That could have gone in basically any order in the last 3. The Reds bats are the only super appealing thing there. Bunch of you folks out there, hit the like button as we go through. Subscribe to the channel for me. We're like 20-something people short of 1,000 at this point. It's been a long slog to get from 900 to 1,000. Not really sure why, but here we are. We're so close. We can see the top of the mountain, and then I can stop talking about it. And then going from like 1,000 to 2,000 will probably happen like that for some reason, right? That's just how shit works. Once we get to 1,000, I promise I will not mention it again because we'll be there. Let's just do it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go down there and subscribe. We're back to regular price at rotoscouts, but that means you're still getting it for under $1 a day. Less than $7 gets you from today to next Monday, gets you through next weekend, gets you projections for every single main slate for baseball. A lot of the early slates, when they pop up with there's quality there, I'll jump on those and provide them too. But main slates are what you're guaranteed. You get a projection for every player. You get the individual home run model number for every hitter, updated as we get lineups all the way up to lock. You get pitching projections, stack rankings, my home run picks, power index. A lot comes with it for under $1 a day. So check that out. Plugs are over. Probably won't remember to do another one, so there you go. Freddie put out the 9,000, comes in with a 25.5% strikeout rate against 8.5% walks, a 2.91 ERA, which is pretty sparkling. That's cast against a 4.02 xFIP, which is probably the more realistic number. You're expecting Freddie to be high 3s to a 4 ERA by the end of the season is not all that bad. 9.5% barrels, a lot of fly ball trajectory, but managing hard hit, managing exit velo pretty effectively, sub 3% home run rate. Pretty believable given his ability to miss bats. 12.5% swinging strike rate, a very good 1.09 whip. Freddie's still very good. It's just a difficult spot against the Dodgers, but you can see the impact he's having. 4.02 implied total. That's not a very Dodgers-esque kind of total. They're diminished to a degree. There's no Max Muncy. Mookie Betts has been really scuffling so far this season. This version of the lab is Teoscar Cutter out too? He is, right? Yeah, Teoscar's dealing with a foot. Edmonds dealing with a toe. So we'll see what version of the lineup we get. Actually, we might already have it. Nope. We've obviously got a lurking monster at the top of the lineup, showing all his quality in a 16.96 in the home run mile against Freddie here. That could ruin Freddie's day in an awful hurry. You do have a little bit of a discount from the top end of the board, but with Freddie in that mix, in that tier of all kind of same type options, it will bend the slate in a hurry if the Dodgers just put a couple runs on, if Shohei goes out there and hits a 2-run shot in the third inning or whatever. Every single run is going to matter a lot for Freddie's start here. The Dodgers also limit strikeout upside to some degree, so challenging spot for Freddie. Coming the other way with Yoshi Yamamoto makes a lot more sense, one of the top projected pitchers. Even though he's one of the most expensive guys on the slate, inevitably going to be at least somewhat popular. He's very, very good, and he comes in against a Brewers lineup that is gettable enough for strikeout around some of their key bats through the middle of the lineup. Definitely looking like a solid spot for Yamamoto. Over 96 and 2/3, 28.6% strikeouts. Walking a few too many, but it hasn't mattered at all. 2.51 ERA against a 3.03 xFIP, a 1.01 whip, an 11.5% swinging strike rate, 29% CSW. You can argue with that CSW should be a little bit higher. You could say that maybe there's a little sliver of luck in being under 3% home runs given some of the contact, but it's on a 7.6 degree average launch. There's a few barrels along the way that account for that, but it's pretty believable that we're below 2.5% home runs. Just a 94 rating by Stuff Plus overall. But I would suspect that we are above average for a couple pitches. Let's see. Yeah, so that might be a below average overall, but the four-seamer and the slider are at 114 and 115 respectively. And that is really all that matters. Or is that the slider or the splitter? Whatever. Now I gotta look. Splitter. I misread it. Stupid abbreviations. Dude's really, really good. 10-5, 10-6. Arguably not expensive enough for a pitching slate like this. Definitely a good spot. Dodgers bats against Freddie Peralta in play. Mentioned Ohtani. Is Ohtani very expensive off the top? Easy enough to get to if you just want Ohtani shares. Put him together with the rest of these guys remains expensive, but not quite as expensive as it used to be, especially if you're dipping into the pool of like Michael Conforto down lineup, Enrique Hernandez, Miguel Rojas. You've got a lot of question marks with some quality down there. Hee-Sung Kim has been really interesting, but he's the most expensive out of that group. The guy I would continue going back to is Michael Conforto there. And if you want to just go like 1, 2, 3, 4, take the obvious guys and then get a little discount by skipping Andy Paz for Michael Conforto, that's perfectly fine. Gets you to 4,800. It's not cheap, but it's doable. And you get Ohtani, Mookie, Freddie, Will Smith with it. And Conforto's got a 9% barrel, 43.8% hard hits. He's only hit 7 home runs in 287 chances. He's way sub Mendoza, sub 300 on base. Nothing's been good. But there are things to believe in here with a hitter that we've seen over time provide plenty of success. 12.2% walks to maybe keep his head above water a little bit on the wrong day for making contact. Enrique Hernandez has made decent contact so far. Total outlier for who he actually is, and he hasn't really seen much for it outside of those 8 outlier home runs. Maybe stop trying to hit home runs and start trying to just put the ball in play like he used to and find a little bit more success. Mix and match quality at the absolute best. Kim, as mentioned, over 101 plate appearances, 351, 396, 489, a 151 WRC plus. One of their better infielders down the bottom of the lineup. And then Rojas, 25, 24. As mentioned, no Tommy Edman for this one. We'll probably see Rojas down there. Not much of a bat, 246, 288, 390 with 4 home runs and 126 chances. A little oddball performance there from him, but just an 89 WRC plus. Nothing really to talk about down there. I think they called James Outman up, who would be an interesting bat. Yeah, Outman's with the team. So if Outman is in the lineup, he is somebody to look for as well. Especially because he's the dead min on DraftKings and on FanDuel. All right, cool. Yeah, Outman. So far this year, 27 plate appearances in the show, 2 home runs, a 250 ISO. Last year, really disappointing in 156 plate appearances. He was lost to injury and up and down through the season. Hit 4 home runs in the 156 chances. That was a disappointment because it was coming off of 567 chances the year before, in which he hit 23 home runs, stole 16 bases, had a 188 ISO, a 118 WRC plus. And that dude is the dead min. If he gets into the lineup, he's lefty. It's a tough spot against Freddie Peralta, but that becomes really interesting and surpasses Michael Conforto as an even cheaper option and a way to bring that top price down. Yes, you can play Conforto and James Outman in the same lineup on DraftKings if they're both in there. Bring that price way, way down. Mookie's Mookie. He's struggling. I know I skipped over most of the guys at the top of the lineup because they're just super obvious for who they are. He's hit 11 home runs. He's still creating runs, 2% better than average via WRC+. It's just been one of the worst seasons that we've seen from Mookie. Sub 10% strikeouts, nearly 10% walks is appealing and in line with expectations. He's gotten a little bit cheap for the quality that you can get on any given slate. So I think you just continue throwing that dart. Freddie Freeman at 49.35. Speaking of cheap, why is Freddie below 5,000 on DraftKings when he's slashing 307, 376, 495 and creating runs 41% better than average? 10 home runs on the season. This, maybe the power output is down from if you were expecting him to hit 35 home runs this year, but he's on a 20-ish home run pace. He's putting up tremendous numbers. There's no reason he should be as inexpensive as he is. Will Smith puts great bat on ball for a catcher or for anybody. 12.9% barrels, 46.2% hard hits. He's expensive, but I don't feel like people necessarily would go to him enough given where that price is. 332, 433, 560 with a dozen home runs, a 405 xWOBA, 177 WRC plus. Just simply one of the best catcher bats available. Andy Pajas at 42.32, differently priced across sites, cheap on DraftKings, 17 home runs, a 290, 329, 497 slash. Why is he 4,200? Somebody explain that to me. 207 ISO, 129 WRC plus. Don't get it. A lot of playability on the Dodgers. Even if you're building short stacks and using like Will Smith as your top end. And like, let's say it's those three as a 3-man. It's 4,000 a piece for Smith, Pajas, and Conforto, and you grab 2 outfielders and a catcher and you fill out with a 5-man high-end infield focus stack. There are options galore with this Dodgers team. On the Brewers side, 3.5 run implied total to attack Yamamoto doesn't feel all that smart. He's got an impact on basically everybody's home run number. You can see Christian Yelich at 6, Jackson Chourio at 5.4. Nobody else even halfway to the magic number. Pretty challenged for power, pretty challenged for offensive output for the Brewers. If you're going there, these two are absolutely priorities. 17 home runs on the season for Yelich, 15 on the year for Chourio. He's stolen 16 bags. Yelich is giving you 13 steals. This team does run. You've got 4 guys in this lineup in the mid-teens as far as stolen base totals. William Contreras having a pretty bumpy season so far. He's very cheap, though, for the quality he's given us over time. There is upside there. There is appeal there if you're going Brewers. But him just being that cheap doesn't really draw me to the Brewers against this pitcher. It would just be if I'm there already. Sal Frelick in the leadoff role, kind of similar things. He gets on base. He's a good correlated scorer. Gives you a little stolen base bonus. 113 WRC plus, 15 steals this year. But mediocre just kind of on his own. Not really a pull to go to the Brewers. Yelich hits the ball very hard. He's very affordable, but 48.35. There are a lot of players against worse pitching in that price range that are stars, similar to Yelich. Chourio still struggling with the sophomore slump a little bit, but he's gotten cheap as well at 46 on DK. 34 on FanDuel. I feel like that's come down. I think it was 35 the other day. Last time I said it was still holding strong on price. Turang at 43, 3,000. Another guy, correlated scorer. 279, 351, 368, 5 homers, 17 steals, a 106 WRC plus. That's fine, but it's less impactful against a pitcher like this. And then you get into the weak part of the lineup with Isaac Collins, Caleb Durbin, Jake Bauers. I do like down lineup, Joey Ortiz. Bauers hasn't done much, but he does have power. He does run a little bit. Interesting lefty bat if you're already going to this team down lineup. But again, it's not a spot I'm looking to attack. 3.51 in the home run model is what? 4th on the team? Behind the 2 more obvious guys and Contreras. Collins has been okay, but doesn't really do anything exceptional for fantasy outside of a solid 122 WRC plus via a 366 on base. Caleb Durbin, Joey Ortiz are not all that high quality. 101 WRC plus out of Durbin. Okay slash line, but again, no real quality for DFS. You just have a lot of guys who get on base, run a little bit, and create a little havoc out there rather than some really, really impactful DFS bats. Yamamoto, Freddie, Dodgers, and then really low end on the Brewers today. Yeah, Mookie caught that foodborne illness on their trip and was sick for like weeks coming into the season. But then it looked like it wasn't really going to impact him all that much, and then it's kind of cratered over the last month and change, I guess. No, I appreciate that, John. I get my wife to subscribe, maybe the Black Lab too. Yeah, look, if you have alternates, burners, so on and so forth, costs you nothing to just click it real quick. One of my mom's friends, she went to lunch with her the other day, and I saw that the woman had signed on and subscribed to the channel. Thank you, Eileen. Can't imagine she's out there watching. 393 implied total for the Pirates. 466 implied total for the Royals. We've got the Royals lineup. Let's see if we got the Pirates in. We do. As mentioned numerous times already, Pirates have been one of the most targetable teams for opposing pitching as far as DFS options, as far as streaming options for season-long fantasy. Obviously, if you get an ace there, you have major expectations. That has some meaning for Noah Cameron here, making his 11th start of the year. Comes in with a 2.56 ERA, but a 4.32 xFIP, a 19.3% strikeout against 8.5% walks is not all that appealing. Does have a tidy 1.01 whip despite those walks, though. 10.6% swinging strike rate at 28.3% CSW. It's been pretty good at managing barrels, premium contact overall. 6.2% barrels, 39.8% hard hits, 89.7 miles an hour of exit velo, a sub 3% home run rate, despite a little bit of fly ball in there because he's been missing barrels. As mentioned, started out like gangbusters. Came out, where the hell is he? First 4 starts. 6 1/3, 6 1/3, 6 2/3, 6 1/3 was spectacular. Allowed 3 runs over those first 4 starts in, what is that, like 26 innings. That was against the Rays, Cards, Twins, and Reds. Then came out, faced the Cards again, went 6, struck out just 3, walked 2, but allowed no runs, 2 hits. It was excellent that start. And then it all came crashing down against the Yankees. We were on the Yankees that day, opposing a fairly priced Noah Cameron in that spot. 6 earned runs, 2 home runs allowed, 5 2/3. They let him pitch, gave up 7 hits, 6 strikeouts and a walk. There is some good in there. After that, 5 innings of shutout ball, allowed 4 hits, but only went 5 against the Athletics. Struck out 7 and walked 1. So pushed the pitch count, but got some strikeouts to show for it. That's a pretty good start. 5 1/3 against the Padres at San Diego. 2 earned runs, 5 hits, 5 1/3. Just struck out 2 and walked 3. Not great as far as those numbers go. Depending on where you're playing, that's a differently scoring start. And then 4 innings against the Dodgers, a little bit rough. 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, gave up 5 earned on 3 hits, including 2 home runs. And then went 4 2/3 in his most recent outing against Seattle. Struck out 5 and walked 1. Allowed just 4 hits, no runs. There's a lot of good in there for Noah Cameron. It's a pitcher that I've been going the other way on in each of those recent starts. As mentioned, we were on the Yankees the day that the Yankees kind of broke his season. We were on the Athletics, and he beat us that day. Don't remember that Pods one. Don't remember the Dodgers one, but they put 5 on him and definitely would have been on the Dodgers side in that one. But with this spot, going up against this Pirates lineup that comes in with a 22.1% strikeout rate, very little success. 2 guys in the lineup above the waterline as far as run creation goes, an average WRC plus for the 9-man of 79. So on average, this lineup, man for man, is 21% worse than the average player creating runs. That's ridiculously bad. Fire up some Noah Cameron, 81-79. Might not get there, but team that can push strikeouts in his direction, 6+ is easily visible here. I like it at the FanDuel price because I think 6 innings is there's a clear path. Sub 4 implied total. Heaney at 65.76. It's really, there's a lot of other teams where I probably would use some of that cheap Heaney share. It's just this low strikeout Royal squad, 17.9% strikeout rate for this team. Just gets really challenging. A lot of hits available against Heaney. He's walking 8.1%, a 120 whip. Just too many guys on base. Just 9.1% swinging this year, 25.2% CSW over 93 innings. Allowing a lot of premium contact and barrels. 3.64% home runs is up there. Still somewhat manageable, but also probably a little bit lucky, given that these are both over our threshold on an extreme fly ball trajectory. That's close enough. I would expect a 4+% home run as time goes on. And that's who Heaney's been over time. Last year, 3.32, 3.59. All right, maybe he's turning me into a liar. There's a 4+, 4.52 back in 2022. So he's been a little bit better as far as managing the home run output, but it all comes on kind of similar contact. 3.5 total is reasonable enough. Mid-4s ERA pitcher over the last couple of seasons with similar xFIP numbers. Mid-20s strikeout rate, though, those years. Had a little bit more to give us as far as the strikeouts go. So with his diminishment colliding with this low strikeout Royals team, just looking in other directions. Very cheap, though, at 65 on DraftKings. I would probably leave him in the player pool and keep a very close eye on how many shares I'm actually getting to. At 76 on FanDuel, probably not going there. Pirates bats against Cameron is at least conversation. Brian Reynolds, destined to not be wearing a Pirates uniform. We'll see where he ends up with that no-trade list that was mentioned in the chat. 10 home runs on the season. We know he's quite a bit better than 229, 294, 380, 85 WRC+. plus. The 360 xWOBA tells us that story. So does his premium contact. Just needs a change of scenery at this point. He's very cheap for the quality. You can absolutely play him against Noah Cameron here if you're going Pirates to be a little contrarian. That's a uniquely inexpensive price for Brian Reynolds. Andrew McCutchen at 37.28, just as playable. Getting on at a 342 clip, a 345 xWOBA, 106 WRC+, plus, one of the few positive run creators on this team. Still hits the ball very hard, still draws walks, still very interesting. Tommy Pham is not at all interesting up top, 70 WRC+, plus, a 273 xWOBA, is up to a 308 on base, at least some signs of life there, but it's been a rough year, and it was a rough year last year for Tommy Pham. Nick Gonzalez against the lefty, there's some quality there, hits the ball fairly hard, 44.6% hard hits in 120 plate appearances, 288, 333, 450, a 115 WRC+. plus. At second base for 35 on DK, he's inoffensive, 29 on FanDuel in the middle infield, he's fine. Ke'Bryan Hayes, one of the worst hitters as far as results go in baseball. 243, 292, 299, 2 home runs, 10 steals, a 65 WRC+, plus, 45.8% hard hits. He even has a 5.9% barrel to go with that this season. Just does not find results for the frequency and the quality of contact. Plays a tremendous third base, though. Alexander Canadio, 14.7% barrels, 49.5% hard hits, just 3 home runs, just a 111 ISO to show for that over 158 chances. Those numbers don't jive. If you're going to Pirates, Canadio is interesting at those prices. You throw that big righty thumper bat against a moderate lefty and you hope for the best. Henry Davis at 22-23 is very cheap, but hasn't been good over 133 chances. Supposed to be a better hitter than this. Does have a 9.8% barrel in the small sample, 4 home runs. If you're just looking for a cheap catcher at 2,200, that's not terrible to throw against Noah Cameron. Jared Triolo can hit lefties. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa doesn't really hit anybody. Comes away with 272, 316, 339. He's fine for some BABIP, but that's really all he gives you. 82 WRC+, plus, no power to speak of. On the Royals side, Jonathan India is still lingering at 328 on base. Still hasn't stolen a base. That is melting my brain. 88 WRC plus this season. The 343 xWOBA is compelling. 9.4% walks, slightly down from last year, similar to 2 years ago, but just 15.8% strikeouts is an improvement on both of those seasons. 6.5% barrels, 38% hard hits. There's not a lot to like about India other than the spot hitting ahead of Bobby Witt, Vinny Pasquantino, Michael Garcia, and so on. Witt at 54-41 has a dozen home runs, 24 steals, hit a home run yesterday. It's frustrating in that late slate. I built the lineup, clicked Bobby Witt, and I was going to build a Royal stack as my second one. And then I was like, I got a little bit of money. I could probably get some Dodgers in there. And I pivoted. I went with the Dodgers. And if I'd gone with just Bobby Witt, I would have finished in the top 5. And if I'd gone with Bobby Witt and I think Caglianone, I would have won the tournament. It kind of pissed me off. Finished in like 14th on that later slate on FanDuel with that lineup. It was a profitable day, but only by a little bit on a small entry fee. Could have been a much better one. Anyway, no sense lamenting that. Bobby Witt's expensive but worthwhile. He is one of the top shortstop options on the entire slate, full stop. Vinny at 43.32 has 14 home runs, a tremendous slash line so far at 340 xWOBA, creating runs 10% better than average, hitting the ball better than he has in the past couple seasons as far as premium contact. Love Vinny. No issues with him at either price. Michael Garcia at 44.31 is cheap for a guy slashing 303, 361, 465, creating runs 29% better than average. A little bit of pop in the bat, some stolen base upside, good correlated scoring upside. Runs right into Sal Perez, who's down at 3,200 on DraftKings. Again, this is just cheap catcher day. Sal should never be that cheap. I know he's only slashing 235, 277, 393, and I just don't care. 10 home runs, a 346 xWOBA, 13.2% barrels, and 44.2% hard hits. The 44.2 is an exact match from last year. The 13.2 is up by a percentage point over last year. Sal Perez can still mash baseballs, take advantage of the cheap price against Andrew Heaney. Caglianone at 25.24. Lefty here for Caglianone. Hasn't exactly been overwhelming us with his quality so far on the show. 39 plate appearances against same-handed pitching so far. We're at 184, 205, 368, but that's against righties. He's at 129, 197, 171. So arguably a little reverse splits. He's also got a 184 ISO against lefties, 50 WRC plus, and both of his home runs have come against same-handed pitching. Probably a little bit of coincidence there. Needs to get the engine turned over overall. 8.5% barrels, 40.2% hard hits. At worst, he's going to be playable here. He's got the talent. He's got the pedigree. If you're going to Royals already, put him in the lineup. He's very cheap. People aren't going to go there. I think it makes a ton of sense. Mark Canha at 22-23 is a mixer. Nick Lofton, Kyle Isbell down the bottom of the lineup, a little bit less so. Out of the three, give me Mark Canha most of the time. The other two, solid mixers, 41 and 65 WRC plus. By solid, I mean they are mixers, like they are the definition of mixers. I don't even mean they're solid, that they're good options today. Royals in like the top 7 is probably the most appealing thing here. Let's say, actually, not, you know what? I'm going to give it to Cameron. Noah Cameron. Top 7 in the Royals lineup on either side. Andrew Heaney and DraftKings. Pirates bats. Bottom 3 of the Royals. Gotten off the rails here. And then Heaney on FanDuel. What's up, Beyond the Rabbit Hole? Good to see you. Eileen getting some love in the chat. People singing the song. Blue Jays, 4-7-8 implied total. I don't love this Blue Jays lineup, but they're always going to be playable. They're top heavy, but there's some decent bats like Addison Barger, Alejandro Kirk down lineup, Ernie Clement, who's finding a ton of hit tool-based success this year, a little bit of correlated scoring. Joey Loperfido's down the bottom of the lineup as a sneaky option in this projected. Do we have the confirmed? We do. And Joey Loperfido's down there. Against a gettable pitcher with this kind of run total, the one thing I collide with the Blue Jays a little bit is that they'll probably be popular here. And most of the popularity is going to focus on most of the obvious key bats. So I think it becomes really incumbent on us to, if you're going to Blue Jays, probably work in, like, I don't want to say always 2 of those guys, but you want to be a little bit heavier handed on the bottom of the lineup here, just because of how much people are going to go to 1, 2, 3 right there. And then obviously Addison Barger in that mix. I think Alejandro Kirk, good as he's been, gets a little bit left behind compared to those guys. 3,800 for Kirk is a spectacular price. 9.9% barrels and 54.7% hard hits this year. 7 home runs, just a 112 ISO to show for the premium contact doesn't really make sense. 301, 359, 413. 118 WRC plus and a 367 xWOBA for all that premium contact under the covers. That's a really, really interesting catcher option. I feel like I've been just talking about every team's catcher as we've gone through. On FanDuel at 29, Alejandro Kirk can be in a lineup as a differentiator, and he'll be even lower owned on the FanDuel side because you don't need the position, and everybody wants Vladdy at first base. So you go Vladdy, you pop Kirk into the catcher, into the util spot. That works very, very well. Nathan Luke's up at the top of the lineup at 31.25. Solid slash line, a 368 on base is really interesting up there. 113 WRC plus, a pretty decent 333 xWOBA. Comes in with 11.9% strikeouts and 12.4% walks. Numbers that jibe with last year in a moderate sample. Doesn't exactly hit the ball very hard, but if we're just looking for a cheap correlated scorer up there, 31 on DraftKings, 25 on FanDuel, it makes him more than, like, on talent, he's just another outfielder at best. But in that spot in the lineup with his attributes, that's an interesting spot and more than just another outfielder. Springer's obvious. Vladdy's obvious. The fact that Vladdy is 34 on FanDuel now is very appealing. He's a little bit more expensive than Springer on DraftKings. He's a lot less expensive than Springer on FanDuel. Springer's justifying the price on both sides. Tremendous year as far as batted ball, 16 home runs, 10 stolen bases, a 148 WRC plus, a 403 xWOBA under the covers, 408 for Vladdy. Vladdy's got 12 home runs, a 132 WRC plus, just that 164 ISO. The lack of power output is still glaring against the contact that he's made, the low strikeouts, the frequency of ridiculous contact that he makes. Monster second half is very much in the cards for Vladdy Guerrero. Bo Bichette at 42, 3,000, slashing 270, 310, 427. An effective enough bat. 9.1% barrels, 48.2% hard hits, very low strikeout, low walk also, so you get a lot of frequency of contact. Kind of ideal for the cleanup spot, especially with the clip at which these guys get on base. That's a 375 average on base percentage just in the raw form in front of them. A lot of opportunities for Bo Bichette to drive in some runs for a cheap price. Counting stats matter for DFS. It's not predictive, but we can predict that there will be opportunities at least. Addison Barger at 41, 3,000 has 11 home runs, making absurdly good contact for being Addison Barger. Monster breakout season for Barger so far, and he's not priced up, even at the reactionary spot. 4,100, third base and outfield, 3,000, perfectly affordable. And then you get into this stretch. Will Wagner at 23 on both sites. Over 87 plate appearances has been pretty bad, but he does give you multi-position eligibility at the corners. In 86 plate appearances, essentially the exact same sample. Just imagine he's coming in at these numbers this year. 305, 337, 451, a 125 WRC plus, 2 home runs in 86 plate appearances. You'd be all over that spot. It's just as meaningless as the 87 from this year. If you combine them, it's okay. If you combine those two slash lines, you would play that player in this spot for these prices. So just go there. Ernie at 33.28, 4 positions on FanDuel, third base and shortstop on DraftKings, slashing 297, 339, 396 now, creating around 6% better than average. Doesn't have much power, 1.9% barrels, 25% hard hits. I'd kind of be interested to see Ernie just on a regular basis up ahead of all those appealing hitters up top. At worst, though, down here, you get him as a wraparound option. And then Lo Perfido is the dead min. 262 pretty underwhelming plate appearances last year in the show. Hit 4 home runs, stole 4 bases. That was coming off of, it was underwhelming because it was coming off of a 2023 in which it split between AA and AAA, mostly AA. In 540 plate appearances, he had hit 25 home runs and stolen 27 bases, 129 WRC plus, and a 231 ISO. This is a 24-year-old, close to the borderline as far as being a lot of that chunk in AA. In AAA last year, 189 plate appearances in addition to the major league sample, 13 home runs, 9 steals, very solid slash line, a 134 WRC plus. So far this year in 315 AAA plate appearances as a 26-year-old, he's dipped a little bit as far as that output, just 6 home runs, 10 steals, solid slash at 278, 354, 422, and a 111 WRC plus. So he's still hitting the ball. He's still getting on base very aggressively, still creating runs. Probably just a weird blip as far as the power output goes. Just a 144 ISO in that stretch. Has dramatically improved his minor league strikeout rate, though. Down from high 20s to 21.9. So maybe a little bit different approach from Lo Perfido. But there's quality there for the min price to attack Sean Burke with a lefty bat with people not going to it. Joey Loperfido is very much an asset in building with the Blue Jays today, and he gets on base enough, at least via the minor league career, to justify shares as just a pure wraparound play back up to the top. That's a really interesting bet. And Sean Burke comes in with a 19% strikeout, 10% walks, 10.2% swinging is the one positive attribute here. A 4.03 ERA, nearly a 5x fit, way too much premium contact. It's going to get tattooed by the Blue Jays tonight. Jose Barrios at 85, 87, 21.1% strikeouts, 8.5% walks, a 3.64 ERA, 4.16 xFIP. As I've highlighted a number of times already this season, if you just scroll over, if you just average these 3 seasons, exactly 32 starts each year, 190-ish innings, that is a league average starter in every single one of those categories at best, slightly below in most of them. That's who Jose Barrios is. But he could beat this White Sox team, and he could beat them pretty handily with a pretty solid strikeout day. Confirmed version is in for Chicago. So Barrios at 85, at 87. Solid projection on both sites. Upper middle part of the board. Very much a member of this club of like, don't fully trust you, but you're affordable. Some of you are in good matchups. Other of you are better than the others, but facing tough opponents. Very much a member of that group today. Easy to play. Probably going to be a little bit popular, given the discount on the heavy air quotes name brand and the matchup. I don't think it would be completely nuts to grab a few stacks of White Sox. If you're building 150 lineups, definitely I would think you're going to have a few. If you're building like 20, 25, maybe 1, 2 shares is fine. Don't get carried away. If you're going there, it's all about the guys who get on base up at the top of the lineup. Chase Meadross, the Mike Tauchmans of the world. Right now, it's mostly Tauchman leaning. 375 on base, a 133 WRC plus. The only guy with more than 100 plate appearances in this lineup who is creating runs above average. Pretty weak as far as performance from Chicago. Even Meadroth, we're down to 252, 344, 303. The hit tool's been kind of in decline. 14.3% strikeouts and 11.4% walks still looks pretty good, but a guy who doesn't hit the ball particularly hard anyway has really kind of hit a wall here recently as far as production goes. Andrew Benintendi continues to be sort of interesting, I guess. 35-28. He's just cheap. He's got a weird 12.8% barrel that's essentially double last year, 6 times several years ago. Weak slash line at 230, 287, 428, but a 198 ISO, 10 home runs and 248 plate appearances. It's just a weird batch of output from Benintendi. He continues to not be a good hitter, but if you're going to this lineup, you kind of do play him because he's one of the better bats. He hits third. He gets a lot of opportunities. Low strikeout, medium walk if you're looking for another positive attribute, but nothing that he's done is particularly real as far as the strong, home run number. Miguel Vargas is very similar. 221, 301, 394, 10 home runs for him too. He's down to a 174 ISO now, 95 WRC plus for both those players. I would probably tend to pick one or the other of those two guys, honestly. As much as they've been the best 2 bats on this team in a lot of ways, I don't really have much faith in either hitter. So I'm looking at it like a table setter, one of these guys, and then probably one of these several guys going down the lineup. Like Kyle Teal for 31 at catcher is probably more interesting than either of these guys. He's got a 13.2% barrel, 44.7% hard hit, decent slash line over 71 plate appearances, getting on base a lot, creating runs at a 108 WRC plus so far, and a lot of prospect pedigree. Kid's supposed to be good, kind of doing what he's supposed to do. Needs to turn on the power a little bit, find some results for the premium contact he's made. But there's quality there. Lennon Sosa, one of the better bad players in the sport. 7 home runs on the board, 275, 294, 416. Just a 96 WRC plus, but 8% barrels, 43.8% hard hits. Capable of turning on one against Jose Barrios for a very cheap price at second base. Colson Montgomery at 3,000, 2,400. Mashes baseballs when things are going right as far as his minor league track record. Hasn't done 13 plate appearances at 500, 583, 700. You could point to that as far as good results so far. Interesting kid for 3,000 for 2,400 to throw out Jose Barrios. So I'm more interested in like 2 out of those 3 guys, 1 of those guys, and then like 2 of those guys, something like that. Brooks Baldwin, pretty forgettable down lineup. Does have 4 home runs, 3 steals, and 165 chances. Cheap but hasn't given us much. Josh Rojas, you get even less expectation out of 35 WRC plus, killing it. Blue Jays bats. Jose Barrios, just because he's too far up the board for me to really get cute and put the White Sox above him, and then the White Sox. But the White Sox are playable here. Not appealing, but like, what would my favorite 3-man of White Sox be? It's difficult, actually, because if I'm doing just 3, it would probably start with Tauchman and include Teal. So at that point, I probably do grab one of Benny or Miguel Vargas. I would probably go like that, but I don't love it. Reason being, I would rather get to 2 of those guys. Maybe it is just a straight 3-man right there. Phil second, short, and catcher for less than 3,000, for 3,000 apiece, with Kyle Teal, Lennon Sosa, and Colson Montgomery to face Jose Barrios. Stranger things have happened. Not entirely crazy. That might be my favorite way to stack the White Sox right there. And really, I can't justify Sean Burke. I know he's only 55, but the Blue Jays are another team that's just so low strikeout overall. He's low strikeout, and he's just bad. That total's telling you everything you need to know. Kind of a stay away. R. Jones is saying, yes, my mom was pitching on this slate. I'd start her against that dreadful Guardians lineup. So Colton Gordon is a lock. All right. Here it is. We'll talk about it. Yeah, Austin Hayes, expensive, right? That is a big price. K-Town's Finest was asking about Colton Gordon. So 20.7% strikeouts against a 3.5% walk rate. Pretty solid. 4.37 ERA, but just a 3.66 xFIP. There are things to like here. He's given up a little bit too much premium contact, a little bit too much power overall. But that comes and goes, as we've talked about a ton of times. Home runs can be wonky. Last time out was at Coors Field. We'll skip over that one. 4 earned runs in 4 2/3. Faced the Phillies over 5 innings. Faced 19 hitters, 4 hits, 4 strikeouts, no walks, no runs. 7 hits allowed over 5 to the Athletics. 6 hits allowed over 6 to the Twins. 7 hits over 5 to this Guardians lineup. That was just on June 6th. Faced these Guardians in Cleveland, 5 innings, 7 hits, just 1 earned run, struck out 5, walked 0. Decent start. Right in line. Nothing about that is predictive for this one necessarily. And it's right in line with what expectations would be just looking through his full game log, his season-long numbers. I think he's playable here. He's 7,072 on FanDuel, probably more of a DK spot. He's completed the 6th just once this season. He's only pitched into the 6th twice. The first one, 5 1/3, all the way back on May 19th, allowed 3 runs on 5 hits, struck out 7 in that one. That was against Tampa. But probably not looking at 6 innings here. So much more a DraftKings option, but on the board. Give you a quick rundown on some Guardians against lefties. Which would help if I would click the lefty instead of the righties. Yeah, so overall, the WRC plus, this Guardians lineup is 26th in baseball out of 30 teams with a 78 WRC plus against left-handed pitching this year. This is for the active roster. They're slashing collectively 226, 299, 331 with a anemic 105 ISO. Just a 22.8% strikeout rate, but that's not nothing. 8.4% walks. Decent, okay ability to draw walks. That is the lowest ISO in the league against left-handed pitching, though. 14 home runs on the season against lefties. So, yeah, little bonus upside there for Colton Gordon if we need to find another reason to go there. 357 implied total for the Guardians also speaks to that. This average strikeout rate is pushed up by a few small samples in here. These 3. That's those 3. and that 44-1 up there. Technically, the fair samples that we have average to an 18.7% strikeout rate, but again, 22 and change for the active roster against lefties. So yeah, I could see that. I can also see some Tanner Bibee shares. We do have this Guardians lineup in, same with the Astros, by the way. The hell? Wow. So Bibee, considering he's 7,000 also, same price as Colton Gordon, I can get into that idea. 4.20 ERA, a 4.14 xFIP, 21% strikeouts, 9.5% swinging. Nothing's great in this stretch, but nothing's terrible either. You can see where Stuff Plus is at on the full arsenal, 3 points above average, 3.5 points above average. He has given up a little bit of home run power, a little bit of barrel, a little bit of launch, but not bad in terms of missing and inducing weak and medium contact. Last season, he was a little bit better as far as keeping the ball on the field, but he was doing that on a higher launch angle. 17.7 degrees versus 12.4 this year. So in a way, that's been improved. 3.47 ERA, 3.72 xFIP, was inducing more swinging strikes, was putting away more hitters by a lot the last two seasons, 24.1 and 26.3% strikeouts, down to just 21% this year. But there are some Ks to go find in this version of the Astros. I like the upside just as much for Tanner Bibee as for Colton Gordon, and Bibee projects out a little bit better. So definitely in play and worth considering shares of either pitcher. Bibee on FanDuel, I think maybe a little bit more interesting. Bibee's completed the 6th. Eight times in 17 starts this year. A couple of them not quality starts, but the majority of them were. So I think Bibee gives you a little bit more for your money at 81 on FanDuel. Obviously, it's quite a bit cheaper to go to Colton Gordon, though. Bats on either side, considering the underwhelming nature of the guards against lefties, I would say maybe we're not considering them all that hard, but that's probably going to keep them under-owned. Colton Gordon, say what you will about the quality, has given up a chunk of home runs, has given up a lot of barrels. They do still have a guy named Jose Ramirez on this team. They've got a couple of righties down the lineup. Ana Martinez will be hitting from the right side. Will Wilson at the dead min is right-handed, apparently. 62 pretty bad plate appearances out of him. Roccio's not much of a hitter. Bo Naylor, lefty. Nolan Jones, lefty. Stephen Kwan up at the top. We don't really worry about the lefty-lefty, but not an overly intimidating hitter outside of just getting on base. David Fry is going to be your wild card here. 59 plate appearances. He's hit 2 home runs, slashing 148, 220, 278. 193 xWOBA is pretty bad under the covers. Last season, in 392 plate appearances, hit 14 home runs, slash 263, 356, 448, had a 185 ISO, 129 WRC plus. Where'd you go, Cleveland? There they are. Fry has made 51 of his plate appearances against lefties this year. He's got 1 home run to show for it. He's slashing 146, 196, 229. If you go to last year, though, 165 plate appearances against lefties last year. Hit 9 of those home runs against left-handed pitching. Had a 279 ISO in the split. Slash 287, 430, 566 with a 179 WRC plus. Carlos Santana hit a dozen home runs in 163 chances against lefties last year. 286, 356, 578. And Jose Ramirez hit 14 home runs, 348, 385, 695 with a 197 WRC plus. So all three of those guys, the potential to be tremendous against this lefty. That's going to be really, Stephen Kwan, you get what you get. But where the rubber is going to really meet the road for the Colton Gordon spot today is on those 3 bats. David Fry is very cheap at 26-23. Again, this season's been terrible so far in 59 plate appearances, most of which have come against lefties. But he has put decent bat on ball despite not seeing the results. And most of those plate appearances last year or a big chunk of them, were very, very successful opportunities against lefties. Carlos Santana, for the quality at 38.27, is very affordable. He's hit 10 home runs. He's slashing just 235, 329, 363. He has a 99 WRC plus, but he's interesting in this spot. So at those prices, with no positional conflict with Kyle Manzardo out of the lineup, there's upside there. Nolan Jones at 25.23, I'm assuming is part of the problem against lefties. Certainly was in 92 plate appearances last year, and can't imagine it got any better. Oh, yeah. 219, 342, 250, at least a decent on base. That's over 39 plate appearances against lefties this year. So pretty weak spot there. Then you get to just mix and match quality players going down the lineup. A lot of skippability in the Guardians today. If you're going to them, that becomes the issue. You're going to be stuck on that top four with everybody else who goes to the Guardians. So even if you're getting contrarian, even if you're getting cute, how different are you really getting? Unless you're embracing some of just the bad options from the bottom. On the Astros side, Kennedy Corona's in the lineup, whoever the hell he is. Every now and then they sneak one past me. That is a name I have never heard in my life. Right-handed hitter. All right, Kennedy Corona. Wow us. He's 25 years old. He is not a highly regarded player. 6 home runs and 8 steals in AAA this season, over 299 chances. He's slashing 228, 315, 351 with a 78 WRC plus in those chances as a 25-year-old at AAA. Yeah, this guy is not going to make it. Had a pretty good 2023, mostly in AA. 22 homers, 32 steals. Solid slash. Not showing a lot of quality last year or this year. Last year in a full 396 plate appearances over 98 games in the minors, most of which was over 325 chances in AA as a 24-year-old, 219, 326, 297, 2 home runs, 24 steals. Oof. Maybe a little bit of speed upside, but not much. That's this guy down the bottom of the Astros lineup, in case you were wondering. A lot more quality up toward the top. I do think you could throw Astros at Bybee, but you can see just a 401 implied total. It's not like they're in a killer situation here. The hope would be that that keeps people away from them, and then we can get to some of the interesting bats through the middle of the lineup. Isaac Paredes is obvious, but affordable off the top. 4,300, 18 home runs on the season. Tremendous 356 on base out of him. 134 WRC plus. Cam Smith at 37, 3,000. Very solid slash line at him. Another player who's getting on base like crazy. 351 on base, 348 ex-WOBA. Just 7 home runs is a little bit in the face maybe of these solid but not spectacular premium contacts. 7.9% barrels, 45% hard hits, but 124 WRC plus. Guy can create runs. It's interesting as a correlated scoring option ahead of these guys. Jose Altuve at 45.32 has fully reclaimed his season. 302 ex-WOB is the one ugly mark in that line. A 119 WRC plus, though. 16 home runs. 185 ISO. Looking a lot like Jose Altuve again, thankfully. Johnny Diaz at 33.27, still very cheap. He's up to 12 home runs. 91 WRC plus is still underwhelming, but a 338 ex-WOBA, making contact similar to what he's done in the past. Still low strikeout, low walk, so a lot of that good contact. You've got Victor Caratini closing in on him just 100 cheaper. Same price on FanDuel. Caratini's up to 8 home runs with a 250, 302, 422 slash, a 102 WRC plus in 212 chances. As we've talked about all season, he has always been capable of putting good wood on the ball. When he gets opportunities like this for cheap pricing in the heart of the lineup against a not bad, but definitely gettable enough pitcher, he's always interesting. If you're going to Astros, don't sleep on Caratini. It just sucks there's the positional conflict between those two because you want them both, especially when there's no Christian Walker in the lineup. Cooper Hummer, Hummel, call him whatever you want. 3,000, 2,400, 58 pretty empty plate appearances so far outside of that 9.7% barrel rate. Nothing to speak of over tiny, tiny samples those last 2 seasons. In 2024 in 442 chances in AAA. 10 home runs, 15 stolen bases, an adequate slash line. Tremendous 419 on base, 136 WRC plus. But guess what? 29 years old at the time. He's 30 now. He's not providing very much. Taylor Trammell, another guy who's bounced around a little bit after initially being regarded as, potentially a little something of a prospect. 25-21, mix and match at the absolute best down lineup. Zach Short, Kennedy Corona. They're rolling out kind of a minor league lineup to face Tanner Bybee outside of the top 5 today. Could bump a little bit of expectation in Bybee's direction, quite honestly. This is a bad version of the Astros lineup. Bybee, Gordon, Guardians, Astros. I think that little of this version of the Astros. 3 games to go, coming up on 5:19. We started at 3:30, that's right. I was like, how the hell? Kennedy Corona sounds like a WNBA player. Sounds more like a beach volleyball player with a solid sponsorship. That's what I get. Monty saying Cleveland was once named the Naps after player manager Nap LaJoie. They should consider renaming the team the Josies if they continue to roll out this dead end lineup around Jose Ramirez. Solid. Yeah, I love talking ancient baseball history, like 1800s baseball. Me and my buddy Charlie on our Wednesday night hangs have been looking at some of those old timers, and there's crazy stories. One dude whose name escapes me as literally the best individual war season of all time, and was then banned from baseball after that. Can I get to? No, probably not. That was the guy's name. Well, regardless, every time you dig into that, it's like, yeah, they were the Reds, but not these Reds. It was the Reds that then moved to Baltimore and then moved from Baltimore to St. Louis and then moved down there, and then they were not a team for a while, and then they were a minor league team. There's all just this weird trajectory of these different teams and the directions that they go. Everybody was the Sox for a while. It just came down to you're wearing all white, and what color are your stirrups? Lot of crazy stories, though. It's fun to look at. A lot of crazy numbers, too, that make no sense whatsoever. Rangers 401 implied total. Angels 357. One of these things is not like the other. The Angels are going up against Jacob deGrom, who's coming in with nearly a 26% strikeout, over 101 in a third innings, 2.13 ERA, a 3.28 xFIP. Again, looking a whole lot like a slightly watered down version of Jacob deGrom, but still a very, very dangerous pitcher. This is not the 30 and change that it once was. This is not the 16-18 that it might have been once upon a time. But these numbers on their own are still terrific. Everything is something to like here. Going up against a team with a 27.6% strikeout rate, pushed up a little bit at the bottom there, but that top end, 24.8, plenty of strikeouts here for Jake deGrom to go find. There is a lot of power, but he's terrific at limiting home runs, limiting power, limiting premium contact too. So love the upside. Don't love the pricing, but no problem paying it. 10-3, 11-2. Second highest projected pitcher behind Chrissy Sanchez today. Love the option. Yusei Kikuchi at 72, at 92. Comes in with a 24.4% strikeout rate that is around expectations. He is a good strikeout pitcher, always has been. 10.5% swinging, just 27.2% CSW because we're back to walking too many. 10.6% walk rate. An atrocious 1.37 whip, which makes it a minor miracle that he comes in at a 2.81 ERA. You can see it in the 4.01 xFIP. There are too many guys on base for him to really, really sustain being able to do this. We've seen him pitch better than this, but to a worse ERA. 4.05 ERA last year, but a 3.20 xFIP underneath. 28% strikeouts and a sparkling for him 6% walk rate. This is the best he ever was, but the year before wasn't bad either. 6.9% walks. Slightly better at limiting premium contact, or better so far this year at limiting premium contact in terms of the home run output, but not necessarily in terms of many of these other things. They're right in line with where he was when he was allowing more home runs each of the last 2 years. And if we get back to where he was once upon a time, where he was at 5+% home runs, then we're really dealing with the downside of Kikuchi. So far, we haven't dabbled too much in that territory. We've been mostly good Kikuchi through the season, knock on wood. But it comes with very, very, very visible flaws. So as playable as he is, there's always going to be that tragic downside. I think 92 is maybe a little bit too high. Maybe like 89, 88, 89 would have been right on FanDuel. But they're closer to the mark than DraftKings 72. That's a major discount. That's an asset on this slate. The Rangers come in with a 22.6% strikeout rate overall. A lot of vulnerable hitters, a lot of underperformers. Kikuchi last time out against the Braves, struck out 7, 2 walks, 2 earned runs on 6 hits over 5 2/3. Had a pair of 7 inning starts against Boston and Houston, both out in LA. 12 strikeouts against the Red Sox, 9 strikeouts against the Astros. Gave up 2 home runs in the Astros game. Those were the only 2 earned runs that he gave up in either game. 2 runs in each game overall. 10 strikeouts over just 5 2/3 against the Orioles. Allowed 3 earned runs, 5 runs total in that game, 7 hits, a home run, 2 walks. Handful of 4 and 5 strikeout games of mixed quality. He gets away with a lot. He's probably the most notorious get away with it pitcher that we have. But he's playable, 72 especially. Texas against, I think you could draw some shares. You catch the downside of Kikuchi, you have a big day. Once upon a time, we would tee off on Kikuchi opposing shares every time he pitched. Hasn't been that guy in a while, but given that I have a Corey Seager to work with here, an improved version of Marcus Semien, the lurking power of Adolis Garcia, Wyatt Langford, there are some interesting bats. Jake Berger further down the lineup. There are some guys who can tattoo baseballs. They've been underperforming dramatically in the power output department for the quality of contact they make. Right? Those 4 guys, Seager, Adolis, Langford, and Jake Berger, have an average barrel of 13.9%, an average hard hit of 49.8%, and they've come away with an average of 10 home runs, a total of 38 home runs for all that contact. So those 4 hitters, to put that in perspective, are collectively, what is that? 3 home runs over Cal Raleigh? Does he have 35 or is he at 33? Regardless, you can see what I'm getting at. Raleigh has 35. So they're almost as good as Cal Raleigh collectively. They're just dramatically underperforming the quality of contact that they're making. Same thing in the ISO department. It's a 169 collective ISO. It's just going nowhere for the thunder that they have. Everybody's cheap, which is good. Makes them very playable against Kikuchi here. Adolis at 3,700, 2,800, just 10 home runs, just a 154 ISO and an 80 WRC plus. Has that nice 330 xWOBA to make you feel good. The 13.3% barrels, the 49.4% hard hits. One day it will eventually come back, probably after he's off my dynasty team. Marcus Semien at 38-29, 9 home runs, 7 steals. After that atrocious start, we're up to a 313 on base, a 235 average, 333 xWOBA under the covers. He's pulled it together pretty admirably. Seager's cheap at 43-32. 11 home runs, a very bad slash line for him at 245, 348, 440, but at least you're getting some on base. You're getting a little bit of slug. 194 ISO is underwhelming, but a 410 xWOBA tells us what we need to know. So does this barrel and hard hit rate. Sam Haggerty's been pretty weak in the leadoff spot. Does have a 333 on base, so maybe some correlated scoring there. Mix and match quality up at the top. Langford for 39-33 is in play. 13 home runs, 11 steals across 300 plate appearances, a 185 ISO, 337 xWOBA, and should see some improvement in the overall slash line as the season goes along, as he sees more opportunities if he continues doing what he's doing right now. Jonah Heim at 29-26 is a mix and match quality catcher. Jake Berger, another guy, as included in that highlight. 10 home runs, underperforming the quality of contact and his last couple seasons of pedigree. Kyle Higashioka not barreling the ball like he has the past few seasons, entirely skippable down lineup. Ezekiel Duran, mix and match at the absolute best, 75 really bad plate appearances out of him. He's been more interesting. 2 years ago, he was really interesting at the bottom of the lineup. Last year, pretty bad. This year, atrocious. If you're going Angels against Jake DeGrom, it's not a great idea, but if you're going to do it with the right guys. Take Zach Neto, take Mike Trout, take Joe Adell, And that's probably all you want. But if you want to stretch it out beyond that, take Nolan Schanuel and Taylor Ward and just grab the top 5 and run with it, because they're not going to be that popular, and that's where most of the quality is. You get a sneaky Jorge Soler down lineup at 3,026. He's been really bad at 206, 285, 356 this year. Just 9 home runs in 285 chances. Way off the pace. 10.7% barrels if you want one tiny little life raft to slap your hand on the top of the water and hope you land on. That's about it. But it's been one of the worst seasons for Soler in a long time. Travis d'Arnaud is really interesting if he's in the lineup. Still no lineup. 15.7% barrels and 41% hard hits in a limited number of batted ball events over 138 chances. Has 4 home runs already. This is what Travis d'Arnaud does. When he gets into a lineup, he hits the ball hard. It's just facing Jake DeGrom. That's not so easy to do. Luis Rengifo is entirely skippable. So is Chad Stevens down the lineup. Rengifo was good last year, not so much this year at 59 WRC plus. Up at the top, Joe Adell is having a tremendous year. 19 home runs. We've got a path beyond the 30 now. 252 ISO, 129 WRC plus. Just keep doing what you're doing, Joe. You could run a little bit more. Stole a bunch of bases last year, not so much this year. Taylor Ward has 20 home runs. Mike Trout has 14. Zach Neto has 13 with 15 steals. Decent table setter up at the top. He could stand to get on base a little bit. I still don't really know why they don't flop him and Nolan Schanuel outside of just not wanting a full run of right-handed bats. They need to shake this up a little bit with another key lefty somewhere along the way here. But Schanuel probably belongs in the leadoff role at 356. You could go Schanuel, Trout pretty easily 1-2, and probably gain production for this lineup. I like Schanuel. He's not an individual contributor, but he's their best correlated scoring guy. DeGrom, Kikuchi, Rangers, Angels. Very, very few Angel stacks, but they're not off the board. Just as a contrarian option, if I'm going contrarian, as I've talked about all through the season, I do want a lineup that's capable of busting out with a big, big DFS day. And that's the Angels to a T with all the power that's in this lineup. So if you're just looking to go contrarian rather than going to the same 4 guys from whatever lineup that were the Pirates, I think this is an interesting enough spot to maybe consider for some contrarian shares. Not great, but DeGrom's also going to be very popular and very expensive. D-backs, Padres, 2 low totals in this one as well. Kind of the theme of the day. We have the D-backs. We don't have the Pods. Corbin Carroll's back in our lives again. He got traded in the Dynasty League. I think I talked about it. I was chasing Ohtani for the better part of 6 months. And on deadline day for our draft pick trading, he got traded out from under me. I didn't have the pieces really to get the deal over the line. I had really good pieces. I had a really good offer that wouldn't have been crazy to accept. It was a little bit more than what EMAC took, for example, for Matt Olson and Seiya Suzuki on different kind of contracts. But good old Travis came in and blew me out of the water with a Corbin Carroll offer. He took less overall, our guy Matt, in the package. I had a bigger, broader package that would have extended him for numerous years. He wanted the one bright, shining star that is Corbin Carroll and his 20 home runs, his 10 stolen bases, and quite honestly, I can't really blame him. Carroll's a star, 58, 4,000, 142 WRC plus, hits the ball very hard, delivers a little bit of speed, tremendous spot leading off ahead of Ketel Marte, Josh Naylor, Eugenio Suarez. Geraldo Perdomo in the 3 spot in this lineup, I don't really love. But if you're just looking at it as like a Carroll Marte set clear kind of a set spike kind of a combo, then Perdomo in the 3 is just kind of a table resetter ahead of 3 more power bats. So from that perspective, it's fine. He gets on base a ton. He's slashing 271, 372, 415, creating runs 22% better than average. Marte, by the way, tremendous slash line, 168 WRC plus to lead the team and 19 home runs. Ridiculous at second base. 46-34 for Josh Naylor, who's got a great slash line, 10 homers, 10 steals. The power's been a little bit underwhelming this year from Naylor, but we were kind of expecting a dip in overall power, and everything else has been tremendous. So he's very good, and we're a little bit cheaper. Suarez is up to 28 homers, having a monster year, 311 ISO. As somebody on Twitter pointed out the other day, historically, he's been a second half player too. Scary to think about if he has a second half like he did last year on top of this. It's going to be ridiculous. Nothing actually predictive about that. Lourdes Gurriel at 4,200, a dozen home runs, solid slash line right at league average, always playable, kind of around the thresholds of what I want to pay for the production we're getting from him, but easy to play at those prices. Probably more appealing than Jake McCarthy, James McCann, Alec Thomas down lineup. Thomas is giving you 5 home runs, 5 steals, just an 82 WRC plus. McCann has had a killer 19 plate appearances so far. I wouldn't expect that to continue, but cheap catcher share here and there is fine. Greatly prefer Gabriel Moreno when healthy and in the lineup. They're going up against Darvish, who, as discussed at the beginning of the show, probably going to come down slightly from these already fairly low projections for your money. Didn't make any rehabs. Made one appearance. It was in the minors all the way back in mid-May and has just been throwing some simulated games. I would expect about 75 pitches here. I don't think we go there against a very good Diamondbacks team. Wouldn't shock me if he was okay over his 4 innings that he's going to get, 3 innings that he's going to get. But these D-backs are good, even against him and then against whatever comes out of the bullpen. They do have a good pen there. They're pulling pretty decent home run numbers. Sub 4 implied total. I like them a little bit better than that. D-backs, another good team to keep in mind as maybe a alternative, maybe somewhat allegedly contrarian option here. A lot of high quality bats in this lineup to work with. They're expensive, but that's another reason they'll probably be a little underowned. And then Gallen at 78.85. Another problematic pitcher with a 5.45 ERA, a 4.21 xFIP, 21.9% Ks against 9.4% walks is pretty bad. Last time out, 7 good innings though. Faced San Francisco, struck out 10, walked 0, 1 home run allowed, solo home run, 2 runs total on 5 hits. That was good because it was coming off 4 outings in a row in which he gave up 4 or more earned runs, including 5 to the White Sox, 7 to the Rockies at Coors Field. Pretty rough. It's been the definition of a Zach Gallen kind of a season. He's been like their 3rd best pitcher behind Merrill Kelly and Ryan Nelson. But 78.85, pretty uniquely cheap for a guy who just last year was at 25.1% strikeouts. The year before, 26% over 210 innings in a tremendous year. Year before that, nearly 27 in another tremendous year. Where did this guy go? Because he was a lot better than the version we get now. On faith, on the idea of a return to form to that guy for a night, he's playable at 78. He's loosely playable at 85. You do have 6 innings available here, but it's a low strikeout Padres team, 415 implied total. I just kind of want to stay away out of that group of shaky but believable options. I think I like Gallen the least, and that's saying a lot when one of those guys is Yusei Kikuchi. If you're going to Padres bats, Fernando Tatis, kind of obvious off the top. 15 homers, 19 steals, a 355 on base, a 384 xWOBA, 50% hard hits, 11.2% barrels. A tie with Jackson Merrill with 11.2% barrels, but both those guys trailing Manny Machado at 12.5%. And then a sneaky over 26 plate appearances and even fewer batted ball events. Trenton Brooks all the way at 13.3. That's obviously meaningless. These 3 guys, very good, high-end star caliber players. Everybody's crushing baseballs. 14 home runs on the season for Manny in a nice bounce-back season. 132 WRC plus, 185 ISO. He's just tremendous. Fills third base very, very well on any given slate. Against this form of Zach Gallen, I'll take my shots. Merrill is cheap at 46. 32 on FanDuel. Slashing 276, 335, 416, a 357 xWOBA, 5 home runs, 1 steal, in and out of the lineup over the course of the season due to injury. But when he's been there, it's been pretty tremendous. I don't see a reason to have him that cheap. Luis Arias at 39.27 is entirely skippable. Cleanup bat, just put the ball in play kind of a hitter. Gets by on BABIP, 292, 325, 401. Yes, I know he's won batting titles, but I don't really care about that much for DFS. Look what he does as far as this year with run creation, with even just, pure counting stats. There's not a lot to like. Any given slate, he's capable of a 4-hit day where he provides some correlated scoring. But with him hitting 4th, now I got to get my correlation, the help from the friends comes from Gavin Sheets, who's having a good year, but he's Gavin Sheets. Xander Bogaerts, who's not having a great year. Jake Cronenworth, Trenton Brooks, it becomes more problematic down here. Sheets is affordable, 37,300 for a guy with 13 home runs, a 186 ISO, 119 WRC plus. Very appealing. 353 xWOBA, a 51.9% hard hit. This is the best stretch of 326 chances we've seen from Gavin Sheets, but it could all come crumbling down in an awful hurry too. Bogey just kind of hovering in the mid-range, doesn't strike out, draws plenty of walks, 255, 330, 361, but just a 97 WRC plus. 332 xwOBA, but mediocre contact. There are things to like here. He's affordable. I would rather have him at second base, so 29 at second on FanDuel plays a little bit better than 36 at short, but this is not offensive. Cronenworth is mix and match quality, 8 home runs, gets on base, but doesn't do all that much. Brooks is just cheap at the bottom of the lineup, and Elias Diaz, not much of a bat at the catcher spot. Give me the Diamondbacks over the Padres. I'm going to say Diamondbacks, Padres, Zach Gallen, and then you probably don't want any Padres pitching. Gallen is very much on the board despite ranking third from this game. This is a very solid 9-man lineup to throw at 3, maybe 4 innings of Yu Darvish and then bullpen arms. They're just too good. That 4-run total is kind of weird, weirdly low. And we wrap up with the Phillies and the Giants, guys. Larry C saying, I'm way behind. Just heard you doing minor league draft. If he's available, pick up Luis Pena on Milwaukee. Don't know if he's available. Let's find out. He might be. He might be. I'll add him to the list. I got a little running list. My picks don't come till late because I've swapped most of them out for pieces. But I got a lot of guys on the list that are less than likely to be taken by the guys who are drafting while I'm doing this show. Just since we're at the very end of the show, and since I opened the file. I've shown you guys this. This is there's all my trade thoughts on the side there. Scoop those out of the way. This is the weekly file that we get with our Dynasty League teams. So this is me right here. Capped out. Our soft cap is 400, but we have a 430 hard cap. A couple guys spending more than me. You can see our multiple kinds of contracts. I've talked about this league a lot over the years. These are veteran guys. These guys with fewer than 5 years. These guys down here came up through the minor league system or were otherwise acquired. So you can see pretty nice pitching combo of Paul Skeens for $1 in the 30th round and Tarek Skubal for $19 in the 30th round this year. $20 for the 2 best pitchers in baseball in the 30th round will get you a long way down the line. Then you get into some of these guys down here. All the red is injury replacements. A lot of injuries this year. Our poor guy, Justin. Justin Bove kills pitchers. He just murders every pitcher that lands on his roster. Anyway, it's a quick look that you didn't ask for and didn't need of the Dynasty League that I talk about all the time. Let's get through this last Phillies-Giants game. Chris Sanchez, you saw him. He was on my roster there. Making his debut for the Dynasty team tonight, making his 18th start of the season for the Phils. 8,800 is a stupid price on DraftKings. I don't understand it at all. 10,000 on FanDuel. Dude comes in with a 2.68 ERA, a 2.91 xFIP, 26.2% strikeout, 6.8% walks, a 13% swinging, a 30.2% CSW. What about these numbers is different from the numbers I was reading to you about Jake DeGrom? What's different than Yoshi Yamamoto? FanDuel got it right. 10,000. That's the right price. Take advantage on DraftKings. He should be ludicrously popular. Top projected pitcher of the day in a pitcher-friendly park going up against a fairly pitcher-friendly team that has a 23.5% strikeout rate overall. Love the option for Chrissy Sanchez today. Landon Roop at 67 at 8,000. Not uninteresting. 85 and a third in 17 starts. Has been pitching all season, pitching fairly well. 3.48 ERA, a 4.15 xFIP you can quibble with, 10% walks. Way too many guys on base as part of any problems that he might have, but he's been pitching through it. Induces a lot of ground balls. 9.3 degree average launch, just a 2.11% home run rate. So if nothing else, he's having a big impact on the home run column for the typically hard-hitting homer happy Phillies. Even Kyle Schwarber is only at 7.1. Everybody else is below halfway to the magic number, Bryce Harper included. So maybe it's not the day you're going to too much Roop, but it's 67 as a mixer and SP2. That's not uninteresting. He could get through this game, handful of clean innings, limit the home run. Last time out, he did give up a home run. He struck out 4, but he also walked 4. He gave up 2 earned on 5 hits. That was over 4 innings against the Diamondbacks. We were not crazy about him that day because it was the Diamondbacks, and we're not crazy about him today because it's the Phillies. But that's also, outside of the walks, the hits, it's not a meltdown. Start before that, he gave up 7 hits over 5 1/3 to the White Sox, but just 1 unearned run, 4 strikeouts, 2 walks. 7 strikeouts, 3 walks on a 3-hit day over 6 against the Red Sox, no runs. Pretty bad one over an inning and 2/3, but it was against the Dodgers where he gave up 6, struck out 0, and walked 5. Prior to that, had not given up more than 4 earned runs all season. That 6-run game came on June 14th against the Dodgers. So he's been pitching effectively. He's been giving you mostly 5, but has gone 6 multiple times. So you've got a loose shot at a quality start at 8,000 on FanDuel. I just don't think you need it at that price on FanDuel. He's not cheap enough relative to the board. But it's 67 on DraftKings. Trying to get like the one drop at the bottom of this cup to just hit that spot that's making my voice scratchy. Didn't work. At 67 on DraftKings, that's offset from the rest of the board as far as the price goes. That makes them really interesting. The Phillies are diminished against as far as the quality of the stack. They're going to have to do some sequencing, which they're pretty good at. So I wouldn't take them off the board by any means, especially not the guys up at the top of the lineup. And it is a 9-man lineup that we typically like talking about a lot, like getting to. There's a lot of quality through the bottom of the lineup with this team. So I have no issues using them, but I do ding them slightly for his ability to keep the ball in the yard, generally speaking. Trey Turner at 55.37 is tremendous this year. 299, 351, 451, and 122 WRC plus. 11 homers, twice as many stolen bases. Kyle Schwarber at 54.42, even with a diminished mark in the home run model, a tremendous option for power today. 16.9% barrel, 57.3% hard hits. He is undeniable, so Landon Roop's going to have his work cut out keeping the ball in the yard against Kyle Schwarber. 27 home runs this season. Harper over 274 chances, just 252, 365, 426. Needs to kind of kick his season into a higher gear. Should be fully capable of doing so. 10.2% barrels, 48.9% hard hits. Missed a minute of time, but 122 WRC plus overall. It's not like he's been bad, but he hasn't been max level Bryce Harper yet. 39.29 for Alec Boehm, who's slashing 282, 323, 402 with a 101 WRC plus. Very solid hard hit rate, very low strikeout, medium walk. The right-handed Vinny Pasquantino, as some of us call him, very affordable. He's even priced like Vinny, just plays third base on DraftKings instead of first. Nicky Castellanos at 41-31, 11 home runs, pretty solid slash, 108 WRC plus, always playable for a little bit of power. Max Kepler pulling down very good premium contact numbers, 10 home runs in 298 chances, not great home run pace, and even worse in the slash line. But with the quality of contact from the left side, I'm just a buyer at these prices. If I'm going Phils, 38-27, other people are not going to play him, or they play him less so. And I think he's really interesting anytime I'm going to Phillies for that reason and because he's so cheap. There's a lot of power pedigree with Max Kepler, and he's not been bad as far as that contact goes. JT Realmuto is kind of the same thing. 7.8% barrels, 44.9% hard hits. Not bad. 252, 314, 363 is adequate, but just an 89 WRC plus, 5 homers, 5 steals, a little bit below expectations. I would easily go to JT Realmuto shares at 35-27 against a young pitcher like Landon Roop. Bryson Stott, 4,000, mix and match quality, gives you some stolen base upside, limited correlated scoring so far this year. And then probably our favorite wraparound guy from the bottom of the lineup. Well, that's where the wraparound guys always are. I got to eliminate these extra words. Favorite wraparound guy, 31-25, a 333 on base out of Brandon Marsh so far this season, 263, 33, 379, just a 99 WRC plus, limited on the power output, but always strikes the baseball well. 9.2% barrels, 47.7% hard hits, on base a ton. Bring it back around to the top of the lineup for a very cheap price on both sites. There is more quality there. It's just a bad matchup for any of that against Landon Roop. And then the Giants side, 3.61 implied. They do have a lot of hard-hitting guys in this lineup. We are expecting the return of Matty Chapman. Lineup's not confirmed yet. That would add another big bat to this lineup, but it immediately creates a conflict on DraftKings. Third base, Rafi Devers, Matty Chapman, their two best bats. Challenging. Apologies to Elliot Ramos, but Matt Chapman still is better. Ramos, 273, 349, 452, a 127 WRC plus, 14 home runs and 387 chances. Matty Chapman, just returning 282 plate appearances of 239, 358, 441, a 202 ISO, a 130 WRC plus, had 12 home runs when he last left us. Wilmer Flores, in between all those guys at 35-28, is going to be playable. He's always playable against lefties, but Chris Sanchez is good at keeping the ball in the yard. A 3.8 degree average launch this year, 1.70% home run rate. Last year, it was 2.4 degrees, a 1.46. This is an attribute for this guy. Misses premium contact, misses barrels, keeps the ball down. It's difficult to hit home runs against Chrissy Sanchez. 114 mark via Stuff Plus. Willy Adames at 39, 3,000. Another righty thumper in this lineup. 11.7% barrels, 45% hard hits. We've been on the upswing with Willy Adames like we looked at the other day. Slowly but surely normalizing those numbers a little bit. 226, 313, 370, up to 95 WRC plus. Not completely lost anymore, but not a great day against Chris Sanchez. Devers, by the way, a little bit of diminishment against lefties, but nothing to really sweat. I mean, we're already kind of avoiding these guys because it's Chris Sanchez on the mound anyway. So you wouldn't then avoid Devers even more in the lineups that you go to the Giants. You just take the upside, and he's fine against lefties anyway. This year, Devers, better against lefties in the slash line, 293, 387, 488. With a 141 WRC plus versus 250, 394, 477 with a 140. That's in 142 chances against lefties, 277 against righties. For the career, 268, 327, 425 with a 157 ISO, a 102 WRC plus, and then 283, 359, 547 with a 264 ISO and a 138 WRC plus against righties. So obviously the separation is there when you talk about the career numbers, but even the numbers against same-handed pitching are at least respectable. Maybe they're not fully worth the pricing here, and against one of the better lefty run limiters in baseball gets even more challenging. But like I said, you wouldn't already be diminishing shares via just not wanting that much Giants and then diminish it again. You would take Rafi Devers there. Stands out with 10.29 in the home run model. Luis Matos, another interesting right-handed bat, but pretty limited in this spot against Sanchez and has had a pretty bad 90 plate appearances so far. Outside of the 4 home runs, the 200 ISO has put good wood on the ball. Mike Yastrzemski, 43-27, mix and match quality against the lefty. Patty Bailey, Tyler Fitz haven't given us much from the bottom of the lineup. Mix and match at the absolute best down there. If you're going Giants, it really is about like this stretch up at the top. And then like Luis Matos maybe to be sneaky. But I firmly come down, especially on DraftKings, on that Chris Sanchez play. Even with some quality in the Giants, and it would be an uptick, assuming Matt Chapman's there. I don't know that I would get that aggressive about them as being like they're contrarian and they're a good team to go attack that pitcher with. I think some of the other spots I said that about would be the right way to go. Sanchez is just too good, and his positive attributes are going to collide with this team the wrong way for their bats. Chris Sanchez, Phillies bats. Landon Roop on DraftKings. Landon Roop on FanDuel, Giants bats. I do see separation between the Roop DraftKings FanDuel, though. That was intentionally 2 separate entries. Anyway, that's your slate, gang. 552. Male Nurses Rock said, I thought my take was funny. What did you say? Male Nurses, I accidentally picked up Burke in my fantasy league. Go White Sox. It's one way to go. It's a 2-start week, probably, right? Who's his next start against? For anybody who doesn't care about who Sean Burke's next start is against, thank you very much for hanging out with us today. I'm just pulling up the old pitcher report over at Fantasy Pros. Fantasy Pros is a great site for season-long content, by the way. A lot of good tools over there. One of my favorites is just this probable pitchers board that breaks down weekly, highlights the 2-star pitchers. So you get Toronto and Cleveland. Yeah, I don't know that I would have done that. Not a great path. I guess it depends on league settings, alternative options that were available. If everybody on your team's hurt, I get it. 2 starts is always at least worth dabbling with if you're in a weekly. But yeah, that's a challenging couple of starts for Mr. Burke. Anyway, here's your pitching board one last time, gang. 3 clear-cut options up top. For my money, I love Chris Sanchez being a little bit cheaper than those other 2 guys. I will take my shot there. Any shares in any quantity that you want them, though, of those 3 guys is perfectly fine. If you wanted to just live in those 3 guys on FanDuel, no issue with it. No issue with it whatsoever. 25% a piece and then, scraps for the rest of those guys. Totally fine. It's probably not the right approach, but it's also fine. 87 for Jose Barrios and 85 on DraftKings. Entirely playable. Just starts this run of less than trustworthy pitchers, of which Yusei Kikuchi is a big part. 92 and 72 aggressively cheap on DraftKings. Worth playing at price that'll probably keep ownership away on FanDuel. He's never really popular. Freddie Peralta just challenged by the Dodgers, but a very high-end pitcher. Zach Gallen challenged this year overall, going up against the low strikeout, high-quality Padres team, 85-78. No favors from the sites there. No different than Barrios. No different than Kikuchi. Probably no different than Tanner Bybee against a quality enough Houston team at 81-7,000. There's an argument to be made that you go from those top 3 all the way down immediately to Noah Cameron as your next best option because he's facing the Pirates at least. 79-81. He's not the pitcher that any of those guys is. Any of those 5 guys. But he's got a very good matchup at a very fair price. Projects out pretty similarly. Not a lot of daylight between his projections and any one of those guys. He's at least in that mix. So is Brady Singer, bad as he can be. Against Miami, 82-75. You can't take him off the board. Roop at 67. Like I said, on DraftKings at least, it's playable. I don't love targeting the Phillies any more than anybody else does, but he's playable with the ability to keep the ball in the yard. This one, again, is going to come down a little bit. And I wouldn't pay those prices even for how it's already projected. Fitz, difficult to see 6, but 5 at 62. A dart or 2 is okay from the bargain bin, but he's no more than that. Junk, same kind of thing. 5 innings of okay baseball. I just am so much drawn to the Reds today and that high total and the home run pick of the day and so on and so forth. But it wouldn't completely stun me if Junk was effective. And then Gordon at 7,000. I'm tempted to say that one might go up a little bit. I got to look at what I gave him innings-wise, or what the model gave him. I don't remember changing him. Got to see where he's at in the model. Might find another point or so, given what we know about Cleveland. Sean Burke, Andrew Heaney, Austin Gomber, pretty challenging. Between those 3, Heaney would be the most believable, but at 65, do I really want to target the low strikeout, decent quality hit tool, and non-base skills Royals? Probably not. It's pretty limited. But it wouldn't stun if Andrew Heaney was just a cheap. I gave up 3 runs, but happened to be cheap enough to be in the winning lineup because I struck out 5 today. That's the kind of start that Heaney gives you. Ellie De La Cruz, your home run pick of the day. Not that much power, not that much offense showing on this slate. As we talked about at the beginning of the show, that one, and that one are the only big totals on the board. And only one of those is above 5. It happens to also be above 6. Everything else, low 4s to mid 3s. A grand total of, what's that, 10 guys above the magic number on the home run board. I think all those guys are playing, but that's not a lot of power showing. It's an interesting slate, gang. I think I've said everything I could say and probably everything else that 2 or 3 other people could say about this one. So with that, I'm going to go update the site. I'm going to get some lineups in. I'm going to build my lineups. Thank you, Monty. Monty says, good luck this evening. Appreciate your time. Have a blessed week. Back at you, buddy. Ducking. Appreciate you too, pal. Every single one of you guys, whether you hit the like button and the subscribe or not, but those of you who did, I like you a little bit better. I thank you a little bit more. But everybody who was here for any part of this show, you absolutely rock. Got a special little place in my heart for coming out every single day. Those of you who subscribe over at rotoscouts.com for under $1 a day to access all the projections on your own, I like you even more than that. Go check those out if you haven't already. Check out our guys over at acemind.io for optimization and sim needs as well. Promo code rotoscouts still gets 20% off your first month over there. We'll come back around probably in a couple of weeks, maybe to start August with another promo for rotoscouts. Right now, less than $7 gets you from today to next Monday. Still going to be the best bang for your buck in the industry. Check it out, guys. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do. At Rotoscouts Twitter handle, free Discord linked in the description below this video. And we will be back for more tomorrow on what is, I'm sure, going to be a Monster Tuesday slate. See you, gang.